Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new SSR endurance race. This time we are at Sebring. Joining me this time is Welsh Boy on the comms, and Zach will be in the back room today doing some of the overlays for us. So, hello, Welsh, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you. And how are you? And good, hello, everyone.
I'm good, yeah. It's been a stressful week, always building up to an event. But hopefully we can have a good event tonight. Some nice close racing, some good overtakes. That's what we want in a race.
Absolutely. And what a track to have it at as well at Sebring. One of the more challenging tracks.
Yeah, definitely.
In the rotation.
Especially for endurance racing, as we see. I think that's Henrik.
That's Henrik.
Clipping. I know. Will that be Henrik?
I think it's
actually, it was class. My apologies. We just got the qualifying overlay on at the moment, which is see what we are seeing if any of these drivers can improve their position. Currently, we have Ori on P1 in the LMP. We got Ras Fiori in the GTE category, and Nick Frost leading the GT3. So not really much of a diversion from what we're used to, but we're hoping for some. It can all change in 2 hours.
And I'm hoping that little happy sound that we heard in Discord would be Zach joining us in the booth, hopefully.
That's all we can hope to see. Obviously, normally he's with us. He's having a little bit of audio difficulties at the moment. But if he can join, that would be amazing.
So yeah, bit of history about Sebring. It's been hosting races for quite a while, and it was used as the place where the B-17, B-24 and B-29 support flight crews were trained after the Second World War. It's built around an old airfield, and it gives they use the perimeter rows of the airfield as someone goes off.
I think that was class, going a little bit too deep into the first hairpin.
Oh dear. And yeah, it's a challenging track. It's very flat, so it's difficult to spot your apexes and your braking zones. So I suspect we will see quite a few people flying off today.
Yeah, it's definitely flat, but there's some bumpy sections, especially around Sunset, and as you approach the exit of Bishop and go through the complex into Le Mans, can upset your car at any moment if you just lose focus for 1 second. As we see, I think this is Gareth Walsh go around not Sunset, Le Mans down the Ullman Straight.
Yeah. And Sunset is its own challenge because it's bumpy on entry at the turning point, and it's also bumpy all the way through, so you can very easily lose the car. As we watch Gareth tackle it, and everything looks to be in good order.
He got a little bit bumpy, got too close to that wall, it looked like.
Ooh. Yeah. It's quite a challenging track.
It's not one of my favourites to race because I'm just so bad at keeping the car balance, but as far as wheel-to-wheel racing, it can really produce some good event.
Yeah, excellent. And one of the arts of this track as well is knowing which curbs you can use and which ones you should avoid with a 100-foot barge pole. Some are helpful, but some will pitch you to the other side of the track if you as much as look at them. So the drivers aren't going to have it easy tonight.
Yeah, as you go through T1, it's a really fast car, and you go through the kink that is T2, and then the little complex of 3, 4 and 5. There's some really high curbs there. You have to attack the turn 4's curb, but any other curbs and you are going to go and say hello to the tyre wall.
Yes, and we've already seen that already in this session. As I'm not sure who we're watching here.
Yes, it's still Gareth we're watching right now.
Oh, it's still Gareth. Oh, okay, excellent.
As we see, actually, if we jump on board with Nick, he's had 2 faster sectors, and Lawrence Lucero is currently faster than him. So can Nick improve his time overall?
No, it all depends on and you ran wide on that exit, and I think that's going to hurt his lap time. That's going to cost him, I think.
No, he goes faster.
Oh, and hello, Zach.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Finally.
I am so glad to finally join you. I am sorry for the delay, everybody, but it is good to be here in Sebring.
It seems like the demons and the tech world are out tonight because I'm having some issues before we started.
Look, there's nothing that can be solved by creating an entirely new Discord account and joining from a new device.
Yeah.
Luckily, in time for the last just under 10 minutes of qualifying here, it looks like, and hopefully we've got a good race ahead of us.
Yes. So in the GT3 class, as we were watching Nick there, he went faster by about 600.
That's a good lap. We wonder if Lawrence can have any answer to that.
Well,
Deagle is looking good. He's got 2 fastest sectors.
It's really going to depend on how the track evolves here, especially, in a qualifying session like this that comes at the end of, effectively the end of a long practice session. Really, I think you're going to start seeing these times creeping down as the last few laps get run out in qualifying here.
And Corey Edwards is currently on pole in the LMP2, and Corey won last time out in Spa-Francorchamps. So he's carrying on the form that he had in the last race. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, absolutely somebody to keep an eye on today with very strong performances so far, and looks like no signs of slowing down yet.
And it's great to see Dennis Jakobsen having a good qualifying as well, because he had a nightmare at Spa. He got taken out, I think, in the first 20 minutes or so, and was running at the back for the majority of the race. So he'll be looking for a good race today.
Absolutely, and looks like just aborting a qualifying lap there, or coming in to change setup or do a little bit of work on the car. Riding on board now with Martinson.
Yeah, he's driving the Corvette tonight. He unfortunately had to miss the first race due to other commitments, but we hope he has a good race tonight.
Yeah, very talented young racing driver.
And so far, putting that talent to good use and holding second in the GTE class at the moment, as we're just a little bit of start there as we lose him for just a moment here. Very close battle so far in qualifying through a lot of these classes, which is really excellent to see. Promises for a good show later on.
Yeah, and it's going to be a race, I think, where you need to have patience as well and possibly pressure the person in front of you to make the mistake, which is very easy to do at Sebring.
Absolutely. Lots of room for error here. Lots of room for heroics. Lots of room for tears and pain. There is lots of room for everything at Sebring.
Yeah.
As the great Murray Walker said, everything can happen, and it usually does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this qualifying's now winding down a little bit. Currently still on pole in the LMP class is Corey Edwards, so we still have Ras Fiore in the GTEs, and currently Nick is holding on to P1 in the GT3 class. We're hoping to have a full parade lap like Spa, so they can get some nice separation. We can walk through the grids with you.
Just seeing the advantage of a sim racing qualifying as opposed to the real thing there is one of the Corvettes takes a nasty slide into the wall there coming out of Sunset Bend, which is really all too easy to just get on the power a little bit too early there and run a little too wide and find yourself in that tire barrier.
It's not a corner you could be timid going into either, because if you're nervous, you're going to either not put enough steering in or overcorrect or whatever, and you need to be confident on the brakes going into there as well, and have trust that your car setup is good enough to ride out the bumps.
That's
Just
not the
running
optimal
wide there.
line.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
No, certainly not.
Some donuts
Oh,
from
no.
Henrik.
Making me peckish.
Indeed, almost completing the full 360 degrees of the circle there, but
Yep.
gets back on track, luckily without making contact with the barriers again, but running out of time to get another couple of laps in and see if he can improve any on his, what are we, a 158.7 nearly for Henrik here.
Oh, and that's a bad spin.
We're looking.
Unfortunately.
It looks like Nicholas Seeger is improving his position. Can he carry it through on the race?
Jumping up to the LMP class here, and again, a very, very tight qualifying so far. Only 2/10 separating the top two drivers, and really not much more than a half a second further back the field. Very quick through 1 and 2 here.
You have to be patient through this complex as well. It's always tempting to get over eager on the throttle, but
Yeah, if
you
you
just gotta let the car do the work.
if you do risk an overtake here, you are risking ruining not just your race, but the car you're overtaking too. That is always a problem in that section. But there's a huge run to turn 7, the hairpin, so there's really no need to rush it when you're dealing with a 2-hour endurance race.
Now, Sebring is absolutely one of those courses, especially in a multi-class setup, where you absolutely need to have, you know, deep knowledge of the track, where and when it's safe to overtake, and more importantly, I suppose, where and when it is not, because there are so many places that could seem inviting, especially if you were passing a slower car. But again, with that knowledge, with knowledge of the track comes the knowledge that there are places that it is just absolutely too dangerous to overtake. Coming out onto the backstretch is a favorite place. Coming through 1 and 2 is a favorite place again for people to try and get those moves in, and for it to often end in tears, as you said, for both drivers.
It looks like someone stopped in the turn 4. It looks like he just got himself going again. I don't know what happened there. Must have been Jonathan Evans, maybe? I think it was. Let's see if we can see what happened. Very good driver is Jonathan Evans. I think he might be on his first race in a DD.
Just running out a little bit wide there, but not seeing any theatrics just yet.
No. Oh, big corner cut there.
A bit. I suppose it's not the last time we're going to see some liberties being taken, and coming back like just in time to see one of the Porsches spinning around. Is that is in fact Tim Buckman taking it for a ride into the wall there. Unfortunate to see, but let's see if they can get out. Anybody who can get out now stands just a chance of being able to get in one more lap. Although, no, frankly, I mean at this point, I'm sorry, with almost a minute 50 lap for the fastest guys, if you're not out on the flyer already, you are pretty much stationary in terms of your position here.
So, well, once again, just a quick update. GT3, Nick Frost is still leading. Ras Fury is in the GTE class, is still leading. Corey Edwards still leading. He's only ahead. Corey's only ahead by about 3/10. 2/3.
A second, yeah. Because Gareth's last lap was a huge improvement on his last one, and he did very well there to close that gap. And Dennis Jakobsen is only half a second behind Corey, so we could have a fantastic race in the LMP2 category.
See, the reason I love some of this open qualifying, especially multi-classes, you have to get, when you leave the pits, perfect, or you're going to suffer if you get stuck behind a slower class car.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's a point that gets touched on every time we do one of these events, and for good reason. But endurance racing like this is all about management, especially management of the traffic in a multi-class event, especially for those in the top tier prototype class. Just sticking to the end of the qualifying session here, we wait for the last few cars to come across the line and see if we can get some last-minute position changes before the grid.
Well, it doesn't look like anyone's particularly... Gareth's a bit quicker, but is Gareth quick enough?
No, not quite.
No, not quite.
Doesn't seem to be able to.
Does not improve in his previous fastest. No one else is looking faster on track right now. As John Ruck goes quicker, but still doesn't affect his position.
Very few cars left on track here. We'll see if we can catch up with the last of them. But I do believe that is the end of qualifying here. Is there?
There's Mr. Colin Byrne.
I believe is the last to cross the line and take the checkered flag.
No, we still got Henrik
Steamroller is still out in the Corvette.
Can he improve on? I don't think it's likely. He hasn't gone he went quicker in the last section, but not enough. I don't think that was enough.
No, not enough. Not quite. a couple of troubling laps there in qualifying, and I suspect that's just a way to let off that steam that's been building here. But let's take a look now as we have a finished qualifying session and see if we can get a look at the grid.
The grid does not want to work.
Oh, we still have to wait for the
Oh yeah, the session hasn't officially come to a close.
right. Just iRacing things.
Isn't it wonderful?
Absolutely beautiful day to go racing here in South Florida, though.
Yeah.
Sebring always a track that promises some exciting action.
It should be even more exciting come the next season or the season after, when apparently we're getting rain in iRacing.
That's going to mess up endurance so much. There's going to be so much crashing.
Honestly, though, it's a highly anticipated addition and a welcome one at that. I think particularly for the endurance side, it's going to just add a wonderful degree of variability that unfortunately is somewhat lacking at the moment, I would say. It's just from a strategy point of view and a variability point of view, there's not a lot that can change the procession of a race like this right now.
So we're still just waiting for the cars to the session to finish. I think it's just because some people are starting to pit. Here we go. The grid is ready. So we have Corey Edwards qualified first in the P2 class, with Gareth Walsh behind in second. Then we have Dennis Jacobson and Dennis Pedersen make it up third and fourth. Larry Hale and Nicholas Siegler, who got sixth actually at the end of qualification. And Andy Morrell brings it round. And then we got Ras Fury and Mattis Martinson, very quick guys at the front of the GTE class. There's page 2. And then we got Jonathan Evans and Tim Buckman in third and fourth. Henrik Steamroller and Bruce McLeod in fifth and sixth. And we got Jacobs Larson and Lyndon Oben. Behind them, with Class bringing up the rear for the GTEs. If Welsh, you want to do GT3s?
I would, but everything's just changed on my screen.
Oh, yeah, that's my bad.
And so in the GT3s, we have Nick Frost on pole, and half a second behind him is Lawrence Lachero. So we can expect a good battle there. And John Rook is third, 2 seconds off Nick. I'm sure you wanted to be closer than that. Then fourth is Colin Byrne, and fifth is Andy Rabbits. And yeah, I think we'll have good racing up and down all the classes today.
So as we're about to start, I think, the parade lap at any minute now. The full parade lap, but hopefully they'll leave enough distance as the Porsche pace car pulls off. We're going to leave hopefully enough for the gap so they don't all Constantina and Sunset and just end this race right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, riding into Sunset as well, you want to hug that apex like it's your favourite granny, as Martin Brundle would say. You want to be... I was always told you want to be under the cone that's hanging on the fence as you go through that turn.
Absolutely. It's usually a great little visual aid for the drivers there as to where the apex of that corner really lies, as it's incredibly long and quite deceptive it can be. But unfortunately, I have a feeling we're going to see a few of these cars in all the classes, really, shall we say, not finishing the race in the condition in which they started, but hopefully we get some good action out of them before we see anything like that.
Yeah, and, we need to remember, the amount of times we've seen people try and do a heroic on lap 1. It's a 2-hour race, so, the best thing is to keep a clean sheet in the first few laps, because it'll take a few laps for the cars to warm up, and then your tyres to heat up and all that, and then you can start attacking.
Oh, so
absolutely.
Apologies everyone watching at home, because Class has without telling me in advance, has changed to GT3. It's showing him incorrectly as a GTE class. Everyone was meant to stick in the same class before the race, and that's why there's a bit of an issue with the overlay currently. I'll see if I can fix that as we go.
Naughty drivers never do listen to the rules.
No.
As we come around towards the end of the formation lap here for a rolling start, of course, getting ready to go green, and like you said, it's just all about management here. It's all about, taking your time, keeping that patience, keeping sight of the ultimate goal, and understanding the ways to really get through the traffic here and what's really going to gain you that speed and what's really going to lose you the time. You've got 2 hours to get the job done here. There's no sense in rushing things.
No, exactly. And we're just going through, I think it's up to the Le Mans curve. I can't see because there's a big screen in front of me.
Coming up towards the back straight here, yeah, absolutely. Getting ready to go green in just a moment's time.
Yeah. And perfect conditions here. The track nicely rubbered in after qualifying. So hopefully there won't be any carnage heading into sunset, or T1 for that matter.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of sunset, we've got a 5 p.m. race start local time, and again, with that 2-hour race time, it does mean that we're going to be going up to and approaching sunset. You're certainly going to see changing light conditions here as the pace car just collects the rest of the pack as they come down towards the aptly named Sunset Corner, where the drivers certainly will have to deal with the sun in their eyes as this race winds on towards its closing stages.
That is a beautiful shot of all the classes nicely spread. As we come around the final corner, the pace car will be coming in. And we're just waiting for that pace car to drop off slightly so Corey can nail the throttle. Can he get through T1 without incident against Gareth? And there goes Corey. We are racing now, I think. Here we go. As Corey gets a fantastic start as he heads down to the first position. Let's just jump on Gareth Walsh. He's going to be battling with Dennis Jacobsen coming up behind.
Dennis Jacobsen's under pressure from Larry Hale.
The big squeeze into the first time these cars have gone through. How is the GTEs going through now? It looks like Russ has that under control for the first few laps. Can he hold it?
Very good separation between the classes here. Not seeing anybody getting anyone else's way, which is always good to see at the start of a race like this.
Dennis Jacobsen's had an off track.
Oh no! It seems like he has had a bit of a crash. Let's see if we can see that as we see Corey. Do my best to find how this goes. What's happened? He's heading down to the hairpin, getting chased very close. Maybe
is there going to be a contact, or is it just a known unforced error?
Oh, he lost
very lucky. Very lucky not to get collected by the cars behind him there and not suffer any damage there, other than a wounded pride.
Looks like we have a casualty also. Mr. Morale, also in the LMPs. What happened to him? It may be a Constantino effect as we came down to the hairpin. Because we should see Flappy lose it here.
Oh, again, same thing, just locking the brakes and riding up the curbs.
Really be careful on that.
Both of those drivers thanking their lucky stars not to be hit there, I would imagine.
And it's a testimony as well to the skill of the drivers coming up behind them that they avoided as well, because that could be a very awkward place to cause a blockage.
Absolutely. As we said, it's all about anticipation and management here and just knowing where and when things can go wrong and being ready to deal with them.
We got a nice little battle at the beginning. That could develop as we get further in this race with Mattis Martin will catch Ras Viuri at some point and they are going to go battling hard. Ras has got it under control at the moment. It doesn't look like he's going to make any mistakes anytime soon, but never discount Mattis Martin. He's super quick once he gets in the groove of the track.
Yeah, Nick Frost has held on to the lead as well in the GT3 class. At the moment, he's about a second ahead of Lawrence, give or take.
Yeah, you can see now 7/10. Who's quicker through the first bend? But Lawrence, he's not giving it up. He's took 2/10 out in that first corner.
Speaking of gaps, though, too, just keeping an eye on the leaders here. Big gap already opening up between our race leader and P2 there, but also the two of them, Corey Edwards and Gareth Walsh, just pulling out an absolutely monstrous gap to the rest of the field. They're really just running away with this into their own race already, and we're barely over 3 minutes in.
Yeah, and Gareth will be looking to redeem himself after the race at Spa, where he didn't get into the points. So he'll be looking for a much better race this time, and it's looking good so far.
Looks like further down, Jonathan Evans, is losing time. I think he may have gone off. Let's see if we can find that for you guys at home. So is he just gone too aggressive on one of the curbs, maybe? He's following Tim. Oh, he's just...
Again, just riding up over the grass.
Saved it though, saved it. Kept that nice and clean, kept the car running. He might be able to gain some of them positions back.
Indeed, but as we said, I mean, in a 2-hour race, in a long format race like this, there's just no sense in being that aggressive this early on. All you're really going to gain yourself is you maybe pick up a position here or there, but more likely you're going to run into trouble. And especially when you know that there's going to be, that at the start of a race like this, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be people having those kind of accidents. The key is to make sure it's not you.
Yeah, because at the start of the race, you've got cold tyres, you're heavy with fuel. The car's not going to be the car you drove in qualifying, because physics demands it. So, like you were saying, it's better to just keep calm, tick the laps off, let the fuel come down, and then start being aggressive, perhaps. As Henrik puts a move on Tim Blackman, I think.
Yes, it was indeed Tim. Henrik
Great
not messing
move.
around, just wanting that position. He was like, hey Tim, I'm coming through. Feel free to defend, but I'm going to take it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and my rule as a driver at the beginning, stint or so of a race like this is always any position you have to fight for isn't worth taking yet. At least in the first 15, 20 minutes or so. Any position you have to fight for is just not worth taking. If you've got an easy, opening up the inside, or you're clearly faster than the car in front, you can slipstream past, yeah, of course, you go for it. There's no reason in losing time to sit behind somebody. But again, if you're going to put yourself in harm's way to try and take a position 10 minutes into a 2-hour race, it's not worth it.
No. A beautiful shot through sunset here.
Absolutely, just Dennis Jacobson just tearing down on Andy Morrow, and hopefully, both of them keeping it clean there, not really running too wide on the exit, as we saw at the end of qualifying. Very easy to do. Let's see if there's a move coming up into turn 1 here. Dennis has a look up the inside, thinks better of it. Very smart, getting right up on the apex there. Does, I'd say, get a much better run out of the exit there. Still not quite close enough, and holding back wisely through 2 and 3.
This is the battle of the first lap spinners. Both lost it at the same hairpin, going a little bit too deep and locking them cold brakes up.
Absolutely, coming right back to that hairpin, and that's going to be the scariest thing for any driver, really, is approaching the corner you just had a crash at last lap.
Oh no, it looks like Larry Hale's had problems. He seems to be losing a lot of time to Nicholas further up in this.
Yeah, just dropping back through the field here. Let's take a look. Not that far ahead of Andy and Dennis in their battle there, with Nicholas Ziegler is just chasing down Larry here. Again, I'm not really certain if he had an off or a problem there, or maybe just a couple of really quick corners from Ziegler, but these two-way battles have now very quickly become a 4-way fight.
I'm seeing Larry had some sort of issue. He went off a little bit, maybe not too much. Doesn't look damaged at all, but he has lost a lot of time. You don't want to be dropping back. You don't want to be dropping back too early right now.
No, Linda Noble's had an off track, and she's dropping down the field in the Ferrari. And I think she's in the pits now.
She's just jumped back to the pits. Let's go and see what happened to Linda.
Oh, and there's a move.
Oh
well.
Pick a time, guys. There's a time and a place for a move.
Oh, and they're still fighting it out through sunset, though. Looks like Larry is not giving this one up easily, although, as you can see there in the sector comparison, he absolutely must have had some sort of issue there. We can see the sector 3 of last lap lost almost 4 seconds.
Dennis Jacobson, what a send against Andy Moran. We've got to see that again, because that was fantastic driving. He was just like, no, I've had enough of seeing you rear wing. I'm going for it. Just full on send.
It really does take a bit of bravery to get it through there, but again, if you can, turn one there, excuse me, is one of those corners where if you can just get yourself up alongside, especially against an experienced and knowledgeable opponent, if you can get yourself alongside the entryway, then that's almost entirely what's going to happen, is they'll be smart enough to know that they're going to have to let you by. The way around the outside there just does not work. It's far too long of a corner.
And Corey Edwards is still pulling out the gap on Gareth Walsh. He's 7/10 faster per lap at the moment. And his fastest lap is almost a second faster than anyone else in the LMP2 class.
Oh, Mattis has gone off track. Has he lost too much time? Don't think he's dropping back too much. No, I think Mattis just had a bit of an off. Nothing serious, didn't drop too much time.
It really does have to be said here that Corey Edwards already running away with this in a class of his own, as you just mentioned. I mean, a second a lap faster than the nearest competition, and showing no signs of slowing down. Not even 10 minutes in here. But again, you do have to wonder about the strain that he's putting on that car compared to everybody else, and if is it a true pace advantage, or is he just pushing that car harder than everyone else is right now? And if so, is that going to come back to bite him later?
Yeah, so as he goes into turn 4, you can see Gareth just coming out of T1 right at the back of your pictures. Yes, Corey is just having none of it. He's just going full on. Looks like Class has had an issue as well.
Coming up to the first of the lap traffic already is Corey Edwards.
Is this Annie Rabbits? I think he's going to overtake.
Through the hairpin, and very wisely just staying wide there and letting the faster traffic through, she does. But that didn't seem to slow him too much, although he will certainly have lost out a little bit on that lap. Don't think it'll be too much to worry about for Mr. Edwards, if I'm honest.
Oh, Mr. Colin Byrne is about to get lapped as well. But both of them giving each other plenty of respect and room to get the safe overtakes done.
A little bit wide, though, on the exit there from Corey, and again, you really do have to wonder if he's just pushing a little bit too hard for this stage of the race.
I think as well at Spa he ran a contrary fuel strategy to everyone, didn't he? I think he ran light in the first stint and then did a heavy middle stint, then ran light at the end, I think.
You could be right, actually. You did have a really early pit, if I remember correctly.
This is true, and again, very likely then it may be that he's doing something similar here. Although, again, in this length, at a 2-hour race length here, unlikely, even at Sebring, with the extra wear that you're going to see over a track surface like this, unlikely to see a change in tires for these guys, I would assume. It's possible, but again, I feel like the extra time in the pits it's going to take, it's not really worth trying to go for an extra fresh set of rubber when you come in. So again, if he is on a lighter strategy and pushing harder, that may work well to his advantage right now, but we'll have to see what it does to his tires come the end of this race.
Nicholas Siegler has lost a couple of positions now. I think once Dennis Jacobsen went past, he was just left a bit of a hole, and I think everyone just followed Dennis Jacobsen through.
Yeah, unfortunately, just dropping right back through the field there, but really not losing out too much time to the cars ahead. Still kind of keeping within that battle, more or less, that he's been in since the beginning of this race here. As we go see if we can come find him here. Again, and just a very tight foursome here coming through the hairpin.
So Andy Morel has not give up on Flappy yet, but another overtake in the LMP class. This LMP class is just overtake after overtake every single lap. There's just no letting off. Apart from Corey and Gareth.
Andy was on the marbles there as well, which meant he couldn't put the power down and he couldn't steer, because if he would have spun. So Nicholas there taking full advantage of that mistake there.
Absolutely, and that's endurance racing in a nutshell. Is really just about making hay while the sun shines.
Americans have some funny phrases.
Oh, particularly down in the sunny Florida here. You really do have to just be on the lookout for those opportunities and know when to take them, or be able to take them, I should say, when they do present themselves. It's in some ways, it seems that endurance racing can very much be a matter of luck. But there's a fantastic saying that I cannot remember who it came from that says that basically, the more I prepare and the more skillful I am, I find the luckier I get. And that's really what endurance racing is all about. It's about being in the right place at the right time, making sure that you don't have that you're not the recipient of the bad luck, and that you're in position to take advantage of others.
No, just noticed. Sorry, Welsh. Lawrence Lucero had a bit of an off track, and John Rook is now up to P2 in the GT3 class.
Oh, that's a good spot. That's a very good spot.
Now we're really going to start seeing the rest of the LMP2s coming through the GT traffic here, and that's certainly going to start adding an element of diciness to some of these battles here. Again, John just running wide there and giving that position back, and speak of the devil, here comes the prototypes, ready to pounce.
This is
see how that
Mr. Pedersen coming up onto P3 in the GT3 class.
It's also worth knowing, Andy was saying earlier in chat that he sprained his ankle, so he's racing, carrying an injury, which may affect his driving. So fair play, he's hanging on gamely here, and he's doing quite well, and he hasn't given up on getting that 6th position back. He's getting very close.
Dennis Jakobsen is really trying to climb back up from where he was after the spin, trying to get back up to the top of the order, but he's still got a few more people to go through. Larry Haley's really catching now, though. As you can see him just at the bottom of your screen, almost. That's not me.
Oh, and I think Andy went very wide there in Sunset Bend. I don't know if he came out the other end. I hope he did. But Corey Edwards has just lowered the fastest lap again to a 1:47.6. He really is on fire.
Absolutely pushing it flat out.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dennis, his lap times are still not where he wants them to be at the moment. He's still about 2.5 seconds slower than Corey, but his last lap was on the pace of Dennis Peterson. So we could see a battle develop there hopefully soon.
Indeed, we're just starting to see, some of the pace kind of work itself out. These drivers working themselves into a rhythm here as we're passing over the 15-minute mark. These, everybody just kind of finding that rhythm, finding their pace, finding their zen, really, which is what you have to do for a race like this. You just have to get in that rhythm and keep doing the same thing lap after lap.
Yeah, and
consistency is key here.
Yeah, and the fastest lap in the GTE class at the moment is Rasviri with a 1:56.8. Mattis is about just under 0.8 of a second slower, but it could all change when we come to the pit stops.
Absolutely here, and I'm not certain exactly when we're going to start seeing that pit window open. Obviously, we certainly have a good long ways to go before then, at least another 20-30 minutes before we expect to see anybody in. Although, again, with people like Corey Edwards potentially running counter-fuel strategies and we think running a little bit light on a fuel load for this first stint, we may be able to see him coming in the next 5-10 minutes or so, even.
Yeah. And Dennis Jakobsen's just cracked the 150 with the 1:49.9, so he's picking up the pace rather nicely. And yeah, he's made about a second on Dennis Pedersen. So we hopefully will get a good battle there soon as well.
Absolutely, really some decent battles developing all over this race in all three classes, which is exactly what you want to see.
Absolutely. And according to the interval timer I just saw on the screen there, Dennis Jakobsen's about 6/10 off Dennis Pedersen, I think, but I'm not sure how accurate that is. No, I'm looking at the map and they do look pretty close together, actually. As the timing screens go dead, just like Zandvoort today.
There's always some things going on in motor racing.
Oh, absolutely.
So the two leaders in the LMPs are currently they are a lap up compared to everyone else. I don't think Mulligard Pedersen is quite caught up and done a full overlap yet.
No.
Or at least the timing screen is not showing.
No. But here we go. Here's Dennis Pedersen and Dennis Jakobsen coming into sunset. And it's always impressive how fast the LMP2s go through here. Oh, and we've lost Zach for some reason.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry about that.
There's a little bit of an issue with the software was going a bit bonkers.
Yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. We'll do our best to carry on. So, yeah, Dennis Pedersen's coming under increasing pressure here from Dennis Jakobsen, although the gap has opened up a tiny bit as they come in to, I'm not sure, actually, Cunningham Corner and Coiler Curve, I think. Oh, they're coming to Cunningham Corner and Collier Curve and Tower Turn. There we go. So yeah, there's some good battles up and down the field, and annoyingly, we I can't give you any timing data because I haven't got any.
Got a new link. Look in chat. So it looks like Lawrence is having a few off tracks. We'll go and see what's going on there because he was doing really well earlier on in the race. Obviously, he qualified P2 behind Nick, but just seems like he's struggling to keep it between the white lines.
Well, running right on that exit there onto the back straight is a very common mistake to make. Again, just getting on the power a little bit too early through that final chicane, which is oh so tempting to do because it does have the ability. It's quite like Sunset, and in fact, a lot of the corners on here it present much of the same challenge. It's very tempting to carry extra speed in the entry because it allows you to. If you don't realize that that doing so ends up compromising your exit, and again, it really comes down to Sebring is one of those tracks that really demands experience to do well here. Ooh, just very nearly running into trouble with some traffic there.
Class has gone off again. He's not having the best of races, unfortunately.
This is absolutely going to start impacting this battle here, though, for third position overall between the two Dennises. Seems like they both managed to make it through the traffic all right, though, and relatively unscathed in terms of time there for the following Dennis Jakobsen. But these two are absolutely hot on one another's heels.
Absolutely, it's one of the more exciting battles we've got going on at the moment. Looking up and down the field, and Dennis has closed on Dennis Jakobsen's closed on Dennis Pedersen very quickly. Actually, as soon as he got past,
it does look like it's under a second now.
Yeah, it seems they've really just been kind of trading off times here, trading off sector times, trading off lap times, and not really making much headway one or the other. Dennis Pedersen not being able to pull away, Dennis Jakobsen not quite being able to close up that gap, but these two really do seem to be a fairly even matched pair at the moment. Although again, you have to ask yourself, is this the true extent of their pace, or are they being wise in just kind of finding a rhythm for right now and not trying to push one another too hard too early?
Yeah. Because to quote the great Doc Hudson, you find a groove that works for you and then stick to it.
That's absolutely it. I mean, especially at a place like Sebring, there's a number of these corners, Sunset in particular, that really do allow for a lot of variation in lines there. It's about finding what works for you and not letting anybody else knock you out of that groove.
Absolutely. as they come up to, I think it's Tim Buckman they're coming up to put a lap on.
Yeah, that is Dennis Pedersen going through with Tim nice and cleanly at the hairpin. You always have to watch when you come out with that. Ooh, it looks like Flappy, Dennis Jacobsen has crashed. We know him as Flappy in the Discord. It looks like he's crashed, so all that hard work he's put in could be undone.
Which is a huge relief, probably for Dennis Peterson.
He's still running. He's still running, but something happened. Maybe he went off track and caught a wall.
Let's have a look.
Ooh, just running out a little bit wide. No, I'm not certain exactly what's going to happen here, but
I have a feeling it's going to be the rears locking up.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Very well spotted there. Well called, I should say, Welsh, but just locks it up, sends it round, and collects a few cones for good measure.
He's really not having a good time with that corner today.
No, but fair play to him. He's straight back on it, and he's within camera shot again. And with some clean air, we should be able to see what sort of pace he's capable of when he's not up behind the rear wing of Dennis Peterson. So
it's a lovely shot as you come up the start finish straight. As he just comes in shot now, Dennis has not made the braking zone.
No.
But so he's gonna catch him, I think, in the next few laps. I don't know if we can get the sectors comparison up. See what these two are doing, because this is currently the battle that's going on the most. There you go. He's already taken some time out of Dennis Pedersen.
Although Gareth Walsh is starting to close on Corey Edwards. Not by much, but have I understood the timing screen right? It's just over 7 seconds gap now, and it's coming down ever so slowly.
Yeah, 7 seconds to Corey, and then there's 38 seconds to the guy behind, to Dennis Pedersen behind.
Yeah, so there could be a race for the lead in a minute. We can hope.
If he can carry on with that, then it could shape up to be really good.
Especially if Gareth is fueled heavier as well, he can go longer and deeper and put in some really quick laps. Although it's possible it's traffic related because the gap is creeping up again now.
Just right on board here with Dennis Jacobsen for a moment as we come around towards the back straightaway and see if he can't regain some of that lost time on Dennis Peterson, just trying to claw his way back into those podium places.
I do really love racing these cars, no matter what track it's at. It's always just so fun to race.
Yeah, I must confess I've never raced the LMP2.
It's so fun.
I do notice Dennis takes a very early turn in there to sunset.
I was scared of that wall, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, and Klaas had another off track, and Lawrence Lucero's in the pits. I think this might be the first stop for the GT3.
It could well be. We are about 35 minutes into the race. It should be roughly when they're running low on fuel anyway. Bruce McLeod has had such a good race this time round. Unfortunately had a bit of an off.
Oh, and a big one as well, by the looks of it.
Let's see if we can jump on board with that. Let's see what's happened to Bruce. Obviously got caught by Klaas last time in a first lap incident, and he's been doing really well as he just nailed it into sunset.
Just too hot.
Oh,
ooh, that was a big hit.
And who was behind him?
And it was Jonathan Evans at the time.
How is that car not wrecked after that?
I was just thinking the same thing. That is the strongest Porsche I have ever seen in my life.
I'm almost sure I set the session up with damage to be enabled.
We might need to go check that.
Maybe it's some Australian netcode.
Yeah, I do believe it's a slightly crumpled fender.
Yeah,
that should have been an entirely crumpled nose.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Morrill had an off track as well while we were watching Bruce fly off into the wall. but he's up and running again.
He's catching Nicholas, maybe? Is it? Yeah.
As we come back to some of the battles here for the top 5 positions, and as you can see there, we do have a few different lap cars in the way in lower classes, so that's certainly going to keep things interesting as Larry Hale here tries to fight off Nicholas Siegler to hold on to 5th place.
There's the midfield and the LMP cars has just been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Here we go, Dennis.
Sorry, go on.
Both just trying to comment on Dennis weaving his way through traffic there. Absolutely mad with a vengeance to get that spot back and regain his lost time.
Yeah, he's dropped a few seconds now. He's gone from 6 seconds down to 9 seconds now, which isn't what he wanted, that's for sure.
No, but I will notice that his last lap time is about a half a second faster than Dennis Peterson ahead of him. So overall, I think he is going to try and bring that gap back, now down to 3.5 seconds as he's been winding his way through traffic.
Oh, and Bruce McLeod's in the pits.
Could just be.
Indeed.
It's a meatball. It's a meatball warning.
So again, it looks like maybe just a visual bug there that we weren't seeing the damage, because as we were all saying, that a massive impact like that is highly unlikely the car carries on in one piece.
Oh, absolutely, and the steering would be all sorts of bent out of shape.
Absolutely.
I don't know if they stuck on fuel there, but I'm just looking at his stream at the moment. But yeah, I think he took on fuel as well as repair, so. And he's back out safe and sound.
I mean, if you're coming in now, you may as well.
Yeah, and another fastest lap by Corey Edwards. I mean, that's because Gareth Walsh picked in a 148.5, and Corey's responded with the 147.42. So he's really showing everyone who's boss today.
So obviously Bruce has taken his fast repair. Everyone gets one fast repair in this endurance league. So Bruce has opted to use it, but only 30 minutes into the race. Hopefully he doesn't come back to bite him later on. Like, it might have been an hour repair anyway with the actual damage he probably sustained in that crash at Sunset.
Absolutely, and there's some of it that's assuming some of it could be repaired at all, frankly.
Yeah.
Still, though, Corey Edwards dominating this race here, dominating the pace. A second, no, not quite a second, excuse me, about 0.6 of a second faster than anyone else out on track at the moment. And still, as we've been mentioning, just pounding in fastest lap after fastest lap here.
Yeah, also looks like
interesting to see if he can keep that pace up.
It looks like he's opened another 2 seconds of a gap as Nicholas goes for a risky move.
And doesn't quite make it happen here, just losing time for himself and the Corvette he's trying to pass there. As we said, it just really is about knowing where and when to make those moves. There are certain places here that seem quite inviting if you don't understand, the geometry of the track and what corner comes next.
And you need a driver as well that's compliant, because the iRacing guidelines say if you're getting lapped, you keep consistent, you keep predictable, so you stay to your racing line. And whoever was in the Corvette were doing exactly that. Fair play to them.
Absolutely, and it's a good reminder to those watching or to those who aren't aware that unlike Formula One, which is one of the few series in the world where this does not apply, blue flags here are strictly informational. There is absolutely no requirement, that Corvette driver under absolutely no requirement to move over or in any way get out of the way or otherwise facilitate being overtaken even by a faster or lapping car. He is entirely entitled to drive his line, to hold his line, and keep driving his race as if he were alone on track, which is, as you mentioned, is exactly what he did, and he's right to do so.
And Nicholas Siegler here is showing a bit of impatience, as I think Corey Edwards is in the pits.
Yeah, see, I think he's jumped to pits, so he's had enough. There you go.
Just got a nice big spin there into the barrier. And this is exactly what we're afraid of, is he pushing too hard on those tires? Is he pushing too hard for this point of the race? And unfortunately, it seems like for right now, for Corey Edwards, the answer was yes.
taking a tow to the pit, so that's going to be a couple of minutes at least from there.
Yeah, I was saying when we watched earlier.
In the lead.
If you go wide there, it can be detrimental to how it goes. Because if you touch that tiny little bit of grass with too much throttle, then you're going to just end up in the wall like Corey did, unfortunately.
Oh, and Gareth Walsh is in the pit. Gareth Walsh is pitting.
So, indeed, now it'd be interesting to see if some of these prototype runners take the opportunity, or well, first of all, if they notice the leader, jumping to pits, and if they take the opportunity to pit alongside him, or if there are some people who don't realize why the leader is pitting now.
And Dennis Jakobsen, I think, has got Dennis Peterson.
He might have. He's got a tighter line now. He might have to go a bit. Ooh, he's done it. Flappy has gone through. Flappy, Dennis Jakobsen is currently your class leader in LMP1.
And let's see if we can try and get a replay of that, because that was an absolutely brilliant overtake by Dennis Jakobsen to take the lead there.
And a great comeback as well after that. Oh, and he's just gone off.
And it isn't over yet. These two still just refusing to separate themselves.
I mean, it is the battle of the Danes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Go to a replay.
So he just gets such a good exit from Sunset.
I think Dennis Peterson as well gets caught up behind traffic.
Traffic exactly has to go wide. It has the Schumacher Barrichello pass there, and just as you said, got the inside line and is able to block him out.
Plus, really staying out of the way.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of Spa 2000 and Spa 2000. I think, or 2001.
I believe you're correct. Yeah.
What a pass that was.
Yeah.
Looks like he's managed to hold on to it, but not by much.
But they do have to make their stop as well, and Gareth has already made his.
So it looks like it was a minute and 1 second for Gareth Walsh to get in the pits, change the fuel, and then get himself right back out again. So unless
Corey's a lap down.
Corey is maybe not turned on his fast repair.
He's 19th at the moment. He's just overtaken Linda Noble.
And well, again, we were suspecting he may have been on a lighter or an alternate fuel strategy, in which case this might have been close to his pit window anyway. So that might be why he took a slightly longer stop there. If he just took a fast repair and did a full service while he was in.
Based on what I can see, he was only in the pits for 10 seconds. I don't know if that's affected because it was a jump to pits thing, but
it may just be the time it took to tow then.
Yeah. Because he took a tow straight away, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he absolutely did. But what I'm going to be looking for is some of those drivers that followed him into the pits, some of the other prototypes, and wondering if any of them maybe made an error in judgment there.
Yeah.
Again, if you're thinking that if you're not realizing why he came in, you just noticed the leader going in and you decide to follow him and decide it's a good time for your fuel stop. If if he's coming in earlier than you expect, you may not actually be able to make it to the end from there.
So I've just been told Corey got disconnected.
Oh no!
Interesting.
Gutted.
That reminds me of Zone 7 racing a few weeks back. They were racing quite well, and then the guy was in the lead and he got disconnected.
And indeed, we do not have Corey Edwards running on track at the moment. Absolute heartbreak for him there.
Gutting. Absolutely gutting, and he's done everything right. Fair play to him.
Oh, absolutely. Well, although we should wonder if that disconnect came before or after his accident. Well, no, I mean it must have come afterwards though, because he was able to tow to the pits.
Yeah.
Really, just unfortunate there.
Yeah, is he even out of the pits or is he on the track somewhere? Because and Dennis Jakobsen's pitting.
So that is our race leader into the pits for the first, I would say, intentional stop of the prototypes.
Yeah, and he could be set fair here for a fantastic result.
Yeah, I'm not getting a speed from Corey, so he must still be out of session.
Yeah.
No, Corey Edwards is not connected. He is not on track. He is not in the pits. That driver has disconnected, unfortunately, for him and for us.
And he was having such a great race as well. And Nicholas Siegler and Larry Hale are in as well. So this has worked out quite well for Flappy, actually. He won't come out. I don't think he'll come out into traffic.
absolutely big flurry of activity in the pit lanes here. There's a lot of people coming in for their first pit stops.
I don't. Yeah, Bruce McLeod has made his pit stop, but I think that was for accident damage.
It was, I believe, yes.
And Dennis Jakobsen is coming out, and Andy Morrill is now in third, and Gareth Walsh is in second. And the leader is Dennis Pedersen in that rather striking liveried LMP2.
I made that for him.
Of course, Dennis Pedersen yet to take his stop.
Yeah. It'll be interesting now to see how Dennis Jakobsen goes with the heavy fuel load again. He was very fast on the light fuel, but hopefully patience will win out here as he comes up on some traffic.
Indeed, although he does have quite the gap to everyone behind. Not certain that'll be enough for him to hold on to the position after his stop, but he does have a little bit of lap traffic ahead of him that may very well end up holding him up. Does Dennis Pedersen here. We'll have to see if he's going to come around.
Oh, and he's in the pits. Dennis Pedersen's in the pits. Yep. Here we go.
For his stop there, so losing out to second place already to Gareth Walsh, of course. There's no chance he was going to hold on to that, but the big question is, will he get out ahead of Andy Morrill, and will he get out ahead of Dennis Jakobsen?
He might be tempted to short fuel it, but
if I know Dennis, he's not short fueling it. If I know Dennis, as we see Andy Morrill coming up the Ullman straight now.
Be quite the mistake, I think, to try and short fuel just to be able to get out for a little bit of track position here. You're not going to the end from here. You're taking at least 2 more stops. There's really no call to do that. I'd say you're putting yourself highly at risk. As Andy Morrill also into the pits, and most importantly now, where is Dennis Jakobsen? Comes through to pass Andy Morrill, and where is Dennis Pedersen?
At the end of the pit lane. It's going to be close.
This is going to be tight.
Are they coming out? And Jakobsen is through just by about a second to reclaim that second place spot. Gareth Walsh, I don't believe, has pitted yet either.
He pitted earlier.
He has. So, all right, so we do have, in fact, then an actual change for the lead of the race here with Gareth Walsh, our new race leader. So we see there, whereas Terry is coming into shot, you can see just meters the difference between the two Dennises as they exit the pits there.
And Ras, it's also worth mentioning Ras Vuri in the GTE class. He's absolutely monstering it. He's got 20 seconds over Mattis Mattisson. We focused on the LMP2s, and rightly so, but Ras is absolutely killing it.
Indeed.
I expected that to be so close.
Yeah. I'm convinced he's Kimi Räikkönen because he's
Kimi Räikkönen doesn't have COVID. He just wanted to tend my endurance.
Exactly. Here first.
Breaking news, folks.
And Nikita Mazepin's the greatest driver of all time. Anyway, moving on. Linda Noble's had another off, bless her. I was watching her practice earlier, and she's getting to grips with it quite well.
That's helping her practice.
The GTE car is a tricky one to tame. I haven't driven it myself.
The lack of ABS is the tricky bit. You're so used to GT3 cars and other similar cars around it having decent ABS, and you get into a GTE, and suddenly that safety net is no longer there.
Yeah. Oh, and Nick Frost has just overtaken Bruce McLeod.
And so Larry Hale.
And Nick is driving the wheels off that thing.
I don't know how he dropped down. Bruce is a class ahead, and so is Larry. Yes, you are correct. Yeah. I was confused. I was like, Nick has been leading this race the whole time. I'm pretty sure.
Well, he's been leading the GT3 class.
We should probably drop in. See Annie. She's currently up in P4. I think she qualified P6, P5 actually, in the GT3 class. So she has managed to get above Lawrence Lucero, who is a very good driver, very quick. Yeah. So Annie is really performing well tonight. I know when I was trying to chase her in the normal Sunday League at Sebring, she's just off like a rocket and I couldn't see her. But she's performing really well tonight.
Yeah,
off like a rabbit, one might say.
Yeah. And as you can see, now,
it's low-hanging fruit.
And the light is changing here at Sebring now. We can see it's getting a tiny bit darker as the sun starts to angle downwards.
Absolutely, and again, just these two Dennis's, the two Danes absolutely locked together. Magnetic attraction between them. They just will not separate. Pit stops, off tracks and spins, can't seem to do it, can't seem to put a gap between them. And are we going to see another move here through turn one?
Oh, we might do. Dennis Jakobsen went wide there, but I think he got away with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dennis Jakobsen compromised the exit. Dennis Peterson compromised the entry, and it looks like it actually has worked itself out in Jakobsen's favor. But for how long?
Yeah, and Rasmussen is in the pits, coming in for his first stop.
Indeed,
in his
from the lead of the GTE class.
Yeah.
So currently we have a new leader in the GTE class, that is Mattis Martin, who's complaining that I give him the wrong flag. I think a few of the times he has said that he does blink a little bit when I'm trying to watch him, unfortunately.
And Nick Pross and John Rook are in from GT3. So both GT3s are now
That's going to be very interesting, the first P1 and 2 of the GT3s.
I think there's about a 30-second gap between them because Nick is already on his way out.
You are correct, yes. Nick is very quick pit stop, 32 seconds. That can only be fuel. Cause
he's hired the Red Bull pit crew, hasn't he?
Oh, Linda, no, but it might have crashed.
Oh, no.
Let's take a look-see here.
That's not the right replay, thank you very much.
Yeah, we're doing well technically here tonight. Here's Linda in the fantastically liveried Autism Speaks Ferrari, and
I think just the grass there.
Yeah, tiniest touch of the grass.
Unfortunate.
Oh, that's a repeat of Corey's accident, isn't it?
It is indeed, unfortunately.
Oh, bless her. But
and straight into the wall. Unfortunate indeed.
But, you know, in fairness, she's driving one of the tougher cars to drive in class as well, at one of the toughest racetracks. She's doing superbly well.
Absolutely. I mean, Sebring really, it cannot be said often enough how difficult of a track Sebring genuinely is to work a car around for any significant length of time. The surface is uneven. It's driving on a lunar surface for half of it. It really is. There's, you know, rapidly changing grip. Runs very, very wide there and just barely manages to get it back on in time to get slowed down for the hairpin there, but that is going to bring Peterson right up on his tail.
I think that was a code brown, that's for sure.
A very slow pit from John Rook. 1 minute 39 seconds actual pit time.
He may have had some repair to do as well.
He must have had some repair, because I think it's 1 minute with tyres was a pit time, which is about a minute and a half in the pit lane. That's 40 seconds of repairs.
And the traffic there really sparing Dennis Jakobsen's blushes, although Dennis Pedersen's right with him again. This is easily one of the battles of the race so far, as Mattis Mattisson is in the pits, as is Annie Rabbits.
We can see her just trading off time here a little bit as Jakobsen had that little bit of a mistake there, but Peterson generally the faster of these two, still not able to make the overtake, and as is often said, catching is one thing, to pass quite another. I think we're seeing that being played out right here for us. Through sunset we come then. Will there be a move into T1? There is a good exit from Peterson. He's got a draft. He's got traffic ahead to try and hold up Dennis Jakobsen. Let's see, not quite going to get it this time by, I think, but will he make it through the GT very easily?
The GT3 gets nicely out of the way. Oh, as Peterson goes wide and sacrifices a cone to the cause.
Absolutely.
I think we both went wide, actually.
Yeah,
our invisible martial army. Getting all those cones reset.
Yeah. And I think both of them need to, I think they've both had a couple of offs, and after you get a couple of offs, you get a bit twitchy and a bit nervous, and the best thing you can do sometimes is to relax as much as you can and focus on hitting your apexes and your breaking points and turning points.
Take a moment for that mental reset and just find that groove again, find your rhythm again, and just do everything. It's really what this is about, is just staying in your own rhythm, whatever that might be, even if it's not the same as everyone else's. Just running your race here and not letting anyone distract you from that or anything.
So I think it was Adrian Reynard who said to finish first you have to finish.
I forget who actually came up with it. There's been so many repeats and names put on quotes these days.
Absolutely, but it really is the key to endurance racing, is you have to be there at the end. I mean, the classic example for me is Toyota's catastrophe at Le Mans 2016. Now, it's so easy to put an asterisk on Porsche's win there and say, well, they just got lucky and they only won because Toyota had problems. And yes, that's true, but you have to remember that the only way that they were able to take that victory from Toyota is by being there at the end. It wouldn't have mattered if Toyota had their problems, if Porsche had problems earlier on and wasn't close enough to close the gap. You need to be there at the end to have any chance of finishing strongly.
Yeah, it reminds me of the battle between Audi and Peugeot, where Peugeot had the out-and-out fastest car, but it couldn't survive 24 hours.
Absolutely.
Initially. So, you can. It's easy to build a fast car, but can you build a fast car to race consistently for 24 hours, or 2 hours in our case? That's the trick.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, and especially in endurance racing, it's not about how fast you go. It's about how long you go fast. One quick lap does not an endurance win make.
And you have to remember as well to downshift at the right time. Because I think the last radical race I did at Monza, I got second or third because the guy was downshifting before he hit the brake pedal, so he was over revving the engine. So that's a real risk as well.
Right.
In these cars. So
endurance is the name of the game here. The drivers must endure. The cars must endure. Their wits, their concentration, their patience must endure. You have to just hang on, and you need to be there at the end. This race doesn't start. I mean, we're 50 minutes in here. We've got an hour and 10 to go. This race doesn't start for another 40 minutes. The rest of this is still... Think of this is extended qualifying. That's really what the beginning of an endurance race is. This is about qualifying. It's determining the starting order for that last 20, 30-minute dash to the finish line.
Ken Miles, the legend who, as far as I'm concerned, did win Le Mans 66, was saying, you're asking these cars to do an awful lot of times. It's best to be gentle with them. Despite the fact he did 240 odd miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight in 1966.
Right, but that's the thing, is you need that level of mechanical sympathy. You need to have that kind of compassion for the car and to understand what exactly it can take and what it can't.
Exactly.
It's the fine line of riding that limit without going over.
The leader has apparently crashed, got off track.
Oh no.
I really need to remember to change the camera.
Oh, he's taking a tight line in there, and
is he going to go too deep?
I think this is what you were talking about, Zach. What the car can take and what it won't.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Sometimes the only way to find the limit is to go over.
Exactly.
The lucky thing, though, is to do that in practice, not during the race.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's lost too much time, though, because Dennis Jakobsen is still 49 seconds behind. 46 seconds behind, I beg your pardon.
Absolutely, very lucky to have had that cushion there and to not find further trouble or further contact with other cars or with the wall, but still not what you're going to want to see, and certainly puts a shake in your confidence.
So unfortunately, we have had two retirements so far this race. Larry Hale and Corey Edwards, both from the LMP class, have retired. I know Corey had a disconnect earlier on when he was doing really well at the front, but I'm not too sure what happened to Larry Hale. But it seems he's been disconnected for a little while now.
Yeah.
And we'll have to see if maybe we can get him on to see if we can discover what happened and have him tell us firsthand Not certain if we're going to be able to get in contact or not if he's been disconnected, but we can certainly try.
I did take a look to see if he was on comms, and I couldn't see him.
He's just... It's been Flappy's
Dennis.
worry.
Oh!
It's been...
Dennis Jakobsen tapping the wall there. Oh!
I was so close on the exit.
That was a squeaky bum moment right there, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and unfortunately for the viewers here, it seems like unless there's further excitement or further unluck for one of these drivers, I think we may have seen an end, for the moment at least, to this fantastic battle of the Dennises.
Yeah. The battle of
Dennis
the
is, Denai. Don't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of the proper plural there, but either way, absolutely fantastic action, and sorry to see it come to an end, if only for the moment.
Although Dennis Jackson's only 4 seconds behind, so I don't think this is over yet.
No, certainly not just a slight cooling off period, let's hope.
Yeah, as Dennis Pedersen's just navigated some traffic as well, so... And we're on board with John Rook in the BMW GT3, I think.
Yeah, the GT3 class, as he was running in P2 earlier, obviously he had some damage. He's trying to fight up the field as he chases Annie down the Allman Straight towards Sunset. Is he going to risk it at Sunset, or is he going to be patient and try and get it on one of the following corners, maybe T1, if he gets a good exit?
I think we're going to see a move down into turn 1 would be my guess. If he can just hang on to Annie here and get a
he's
good
lost a bit of traction.
Certainly has that. Now that's the problem. You get the draft from the car in front down the straight, but lose a little bit on the under braking in the corners as he's just getting sliced through there by
Henrik.
No, that's a GTE. Yeah, that's indeed, that's a faster class. So not a change of position there, but not quite close enough either. Is John Rook for a move there into turn 1, making
he's
up
not
for
giving
it.
up.
Yeah. Oh, and
Ooh. And, but then just again caught a little bit of the curbs there. You saw the rear just get a little bit loose and gave up the gains he was making. Still, I think we're going to see an attempt at a move here within the next lap or so, I'd say, from John Rook.
Yeah, and the BMW is a fantastically balanced car as well. It's very forgiving for the most part, as long as you don't clatter a curb. And thankfully, my commentator's curse hasn't hit tonight, so may that continue.
The curbing here at Sebring 2 is reasonably compliant. There's not a lot of giant sausage curbs or anything that's going to immediately ruin your day. It's more about just the change in lateral load and the fact that most of the places, like you can see here, where you'd be hitting a curb, is under significant direction change. So it's less about the actual upset of the car when you're hitting them, and more just that change in the traction surface. But still, very easy, as we've seen a few times here, to just catch those curbs on the power and send the rear spinning.
There goes Mulligard. Cutting through the GT3 is like a hot knife through butter, not the other way around.
Dennis Jakobsen's 2 seconds behind Dennis Pedersen, I think.
And now we really are seeing a really quick drive from Dennis Jakobsen here. We've seen a couple of offs, a couple of mistakes from him as well, but he seems very keen to make up for them. We come on board now through Sunset, and again, just that constantly shifting light into this final corner here, taking the drivers by surprise and giving them something new to work with lap after lap. Yeah. Coming up through a couple of lapped cars is Dennis, and sliding right then left as he's going to go in up the inside here into the first corner. Compromise the entry slightly, but doesn't really seem to lose too much speed there. And again, that's the key. Is just you're going to lose out to traffic in a race like this. The key is just to minimize it.
Absolutely. And how many more comebacks has he got in him though? Because he's had a couple of offs now and stuff, and has he got very close to the grass there?
The worrying thing for Dennis Jakobsen is he was about 3 seconds ahead at the time, as we see. I think Mattis disappearing on my end again.
Yeah.
But he was 2-3 seconds ahead of Dennis Pedersen until he had that off and spin. So it's just
Linda Noble's in the pits, bless her again.
This might be a pit though. This might actually be pit lane pit.
as we've heard from the late great Murray Walker, half the race is gone, and there's still half a race to go. There is quite a lot of action to unfold here, and as we've seen, the Danes trading off for positions 2 and 3 overall. I think we're still going to see a monster drive from Dennis Jakobsen to try and claw his way back onto the second step, or potentially even the top of the podium. Although, again, Gareth Walsh with over a 40-second lead to the rest of the field there at this point, it's going to take some significant effort to be able to unseat him from the top of that podium.
He's going to need a few more off tracks if he's going to lose that lead.
Yeah.
Been very strong. I know he's been really concentrating the last couple of weeks.
Oh, I thought John Brooke was going to try and send it there into sunset, and I was going to say that had been bold from that far back. But although he has got a brilliant he's got a brilliant exit.
Oh, here we go. We're going to see a move into turn 1 here from John Rook on Annie Rabbit's getting alongside at the entry, and this should be fairly cleanly his, unless we see some drama here. And indeed, John Rook sliding through there, just taking that inside line, very difficult to defend against. And as long as he can hold it out through 2 and 3, shouldn't see much of a challenge from Annie, at least for a couple more corners.
Yeah. But Annie's doing the right thing in racing her own race as well. She's still set fair for a good result here, because I think Bass is a lap down on her. So, but if she can just stay close to his coattails, you know, he might make a mistake, as we've seen tonight. You know, there's been mistakes up and down the field, and Sebring is a track that sifts the OK drivers from the aliens, frankly.
The OK drivers.
I'm trying to be nice.
I'm sure somebody will appreciate being called an OK driver.
Well, they're better than me. They're still racing.
Well, it's because you sold your wheel. That's the most important thing about turning.
Yeah, but as the legendary Murray Walker said, those who can do and those who can't talk about it.
I do both.
Yeah, I wish I could do both.
Hey, so you say, but you know, here we all are.
Someone's just gone flying back. Someone's just gone flying off at sunset.
I think. Was that a car or was that a cone?
I think
I saw a cone and a locked brake.
Yeah, I think it was Jacob Larson. Punted the cone. Had enough of this cone being in his way.
Oh, and Jakobsen's into 48s. He's really coming on pace now.
Absolutely, setting a personal best here. Just really trying to make up for those few mistakes of his, and trying to get a grip on his race here, really, and just get back in that groove that we've been talking about all night.
Yeah.
I mean, see here, the last few laps, though, he's been starting to take about a second a lap off Peterson ahead, and that gap really just dropping down now.
Yeah. Oh, and Klaas Hartmann is in the pits. Possibly for a proper pit stop. I'm not sure.
I got told off last time for not featuring enough box room racing, so he's got off track. He's not been boring. Let's see what he did. He was very boring at Spa, did nothing worth covering, as he just decided he didn't want to race on the track anymore.
Lon needed a bit of mowing there.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything, because I've done that many times at that corner.
Yeah, it's very easy to just come in a little bit too hot there and not quite be able to scrub the speed off in time.
And the other thing we should bear in mind as well about Sebring is it's flat. It is pancake flat. There's no undulations or anything, which can not make for a boring race. That's not what I mean, but it can be tricky to spot apexes and so on. And pick your braking markers and stuff. I mean, that's why they put these cones along the side of the track for you to have a clue. Whereas at most tracks, you'd pick a billboard or a discoloration in the tarmac or whatever. At Sebring, there's so many things going on, and it's flat as a pancake that you might struggle.
It's deceptively bumpy at Sebring. That is the trouble. Like, obviously, it is a converted runway around and about the track, but there's just hidden bumps everywhere. You wouldn't expect that would cause that much damage, but it really throws you off your game when you're sliding around at like 100 miles an hour.
It presents an incredible challenge because the thing is, of course, these cars are designed to work in such a narrow operating window, and when the grip isn't there, or when it drops off, even by a few percentage points, it can have a massive knock-on effect here. Those massive bumps and the differences in the surface, and you can see parts of it being concrete, parts of it being tarmac, parts of it being grooved, parts of it being flat, and all of it being bumpy. It means that the tire is never fully in contact with the ground. You never have the full contact patch that you're expecting and that you need. So it really becomes almost a game of tiptoe around Sebring, of just trying to keep as much grip as possible, and knowing where the spots on the track are that you can and can't go, even if they're not necessarily on the normal racing line.
Yeah,
So
and
looks like
that looks like some heavy damage.
Looks like he's written that BMW off.
Yeah, that's an MOT fail right there.
Indeed, we'll have to see if we can find out what happened there, because that is certainly an up-close and personal encounter of the first kind with a barrier.
I think it happened a while ago. He's been in the pits for about 2 minutes, but I was just wondering why he was in the pits for 2 minutes, and now we know a little bit more.
Yeah, that certainly seems. Yeah, the answer is nothing good.
Oh, and Nicholas Siegler cracking the 149s with the 149.49. Great lap from him. He hasn't given up yet either.
I think he has just gone off track just before you said that, though. Not for too long.
Well, I'm following in the great footsteps of Murray Walker. What have I said?
We do miss Murray.
Yeah. We can all quote Murrayisms, couldn't we? And some of the things, for me, the most memorable one was him talking about Damon Hill going, I have to stop now because I've got a lump in my throat. Because, of course, he knew Damon's dad, didn't he? So that was a pretty cool moment.
It really is an entirely unique character in the history of motorsport.
We miss you, Murray. We're back with Gareth Walsh here as he's closing on Annie Rabbits to put a lap on it. And
I don't think that can be classed as closing. That was just flying.
Well, he's still on the ground, so technically he's not flying just yet.
LMP's ever on the ground.
Then again, though, they do achieve takeoff speed, these cars, so...
They
have the whopping great big wings on them.
They're at runway nearby.
Yeah, funny you mention that.
I do believe, in fact, that is the true reason behind the ban on movable aerodynamic devices, is they're just afraid that a driver's going to try and overtake someone vertically.
Mercedes tried it in the 90s at Le Mans, and it didn't quite work out the way they wanted to. I'm sorry to Mark Webber and Timo Schneider, I think it was, in the other car.
So the takeoff performed admirably, the landing not so much.
Yeah. Mercedes tried it with the dash, they pulled the wheel back and nothing happened.
It's dangerous when you pull the wheel back and it comes off.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to see happen.
Trying to think, Pastor Maldonado had it happen. No.
Yes. When was that? That's from
2011, I think it was, and it happened to Raikkonen at Imola in 2001 in the Sauber.
Got to be just the worst feeling in the world as a driver when you turn the wheel and realize it's no longer connected to, the wheels.
Yeah, you're like, and I can imagine Kimmy's language when that happened.
Indeed, if just, okay, now what do I do with this now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Lawrence has worked himself back up.
Oh, Gareth Walsh is in the pits. Race leader is in the pits. So,
or I believe that'll just be a scheduled stop for him.
Yeah, I imagine it would be. Nothing. It doesn't look like anything damaged on his car.
No.
Speaking of steering wheels too, when was it that wasn't it Max Verstappen during one of the Grand Prix had to remove and reset his steering wheel during a lap?
I'd have to check that. I'm not sure.
I feel I remember.
He did it.
I'm sure I mustn't be making it up, but.
I think he did it on the way into the box.
It might have been, yeah. It might have been. I know there have been several instances of drivers having to change, steering wheels during a pit stop. But I seem to remember there's one where he did it while the car was moving.
Yeah, I think he was coming in.
Quite remember where.
That is a risky strategy.
Must have done, because I mean, there's no way you'd pull that out on the track, but to even, like I said, even in the pits, absolutely risky.
Yeah. Klaas Hartmann's still in the pits at 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes.
I think he's broke.
So, yeah, I think the Red Bull mechanics are trying to fix the front of his car now.
You need more than Red Bull mechanics to fix that car.
Well, they did check his front suspension in an hour, didn't they? And it was a 3-hour job, they reckon. So
I'm fairly certain if there's a job in this world that takes more than Red Bull mechanics, it can't be accomplished.
Yeah. Well,
those boys, I swear.
Yeah, I'm not a huge
they
fan
can't do it.
Fan or not, you have to respect the speed they can change in crucial components.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're talented guys and girls there, without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely.
And Nicholas Siegel has lowered his fastest lap again to a 1:48.43. He's really.
He's not messing around.
He's faster than
Jakobsen.
The two Dennises ahead of him actually, and he's only 14 seconds down. So this could go either way. We may not have the podium we think as Nicholas.
Oh, as Siegler goes straight on into the wall.
What have I said? There we go.
That we will have to see again.
Doesn't look too damaged right now. Maybe I'll update in a few seconds.
He went full nose on as well. He didn't go in at an angle, so he probably hasn't. So that'll be a front panel change, I imagine.
Dude, but what has caused it is the question.
I think he lost it on the bump. Yeah. He carried too much speed and lost it on the bump, I think.
So let's see if we can see that again.
Absolutely. Just try to catch it from a bit of a wider angle here and see exactly what's gone wrong there. But yeah, just...
Oh, he was on the wrong line there.
Exactly, just not lined up, locks the brakes there, and as you said, goes straight on to the scene of the accident.
Yeah. He was a day late and $1 short there, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Oh, and...
The Dennis is back at it.
Again. They need couples counselling or something. I'm not sure what to suggest.
I'm not certain what it is, but there is absolutely some form of separation anxiety going on between these two. But they are battling it out with the fury of Vikings. It's quite insane to see how close these two have been all race long, and with just under an hour left to go, how close they continue to be, despite one off after another, one mistake, here and there from each of them. They're still just matching each other fairly directly, about 1.5 seconds separating them now.
And Linda Noble in the pits.
I think she had an issue again, unfortunately.
Okay. That Ferrari's looking very second-hand. Unfortunately.
And just running a bit wide and again finding the barriers at speed and
oh my word, I'm rolling it. That's a toe.
That is a toe back to the pits. That is quite unfortunate from Linda Noble. See this again here. Just missing the breaking point. Same thing that we've just seen, really, is again, we're just starting to see the toll of concentration and patience that some of these drivers are undergoing. And
I think she might have also been caught out just by that little tiny bit extra speed from the draft. You have to learn to adjust your braking points just a little bit, because I've done it many times.
Yeah, distracted by that BMW a tiny bit.
Indeed. We now have under a second is the gap between the Danes at the front of the field here. And we very well may be on for another change of lead in the next couple of laps with a beautiful sunset as we see there over the hairpin.
There's been a few crashes in the lower classes.
Yeah.
Lawrence Cicero has gone off track in the GTEs, I think it is. He's running second. Actually, GT3s, my apologies. And also Nicholas Siegler went off again. I don't think they lost too much time this time round. But
which is a shame, because Nicholas was running really well just there. As his lap times in the 1:57s now.
Still doesn't look too damaged. Maybe a little dirty.
I don't think he boxed after that.
I do not believe he did, and I'm quite surprised to say so, because one would imagine with an impact like that, there would be quite a lot of work to perform on that car.
Yeah.
What is this from Lucero again? Just, ooh.
Oh, I
might
think
have
he's
dipped the
carried
wheel.
See,
too
same.
much.
Exactly, he's carried too
far
wide.
enough speed in there.
He saved it out the
Looks like-
wall, though.
They say
did
it looks
well.
like he managed to avoid contact with the barriers there, but such an easy mistake to make, coming just too fast through that last chicane and running out onto the grass there. And again, under that sort of lateral load, putting one wheel on the grass is almost a direct ticket to a spin like that.
Absolutely. And Dennis Jakobsen's in the lead. We've missed that, unfortunately, but
We will get
Indeed.
it back.
how did he do it? Here we go.
Coming through traffic.
Oh, another traffic maneuver.
Now, are we going to get a pass into? Indeed,
Wow.
gets it done before sunset and is able to just carry that speed through. It does look like Dennis Peterson got held up by the traffic there a little bit and just ever so slightly caught napping.
Wow. Sadly, though, Gareth Walsh is only 17 seconds behind them, so the lead's going to go back to him. Oh, 22 seconds, sorry, I keep reading the wrong thing. I do apologize, everyone.
We're going to see, slightly. I want to see, well, when did they actually pit here?
So Gareth
let's see.
pitted 36, so the two ahead of him still have to pit yet.
Yeah, so they've got, looks like about 2 or 3 laps
That's a
after
fancy
Walsh. We
graphic.
should be expecting to see them. So yeah, from 36, we should be seeing them in just about this lap, I would say, for both the Danes at the front of the field would be my guess. And
Which is
let's go
sunset.
back.
No, it's not, sorry.
Find.
Heading up to the
No,
Ullman.
he's coming up onto the...
Ooh!
Oh, and a huge tail slide there. Well held from Dennis Jakobsen there. He
Indeed,
was pushing
quite-
really hard.
quite a display of car control there to keep that one collected and avoid the spin that we've seen become oh so common here. But coming through sunset, is he going to make a dive for pit lane now?
I
Yes.
think so.
I would say
No,
no, he stays out. Took a very tight line there. It looked like he was coming into the pitch, but no, both Danes still out for another lap.
This is playing into Gareth Walsh's hands, though. They're too busy fighting each other, and he's just bumbling along up
No,
behind them.
I think actually Dennis
Exactly.
Jakobsen's got a 5-second gap now.
We've seen about 8 seconds drop down off that gap to Gareth Walsh there, so he's firmly in position to take his lead back when these two make their stops. And you can see there just the difference in lap time.
Yeah.
But indeed, as you pointed out, a 5-second gap now between first and second, as Nick Stiegler comes into the pits from P4.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the gap from Gareth just dropping down, as
Yeah.
those two at the front are just losing out on each other.
And Klaas is still in the pits.
I think Klaas's races might just be done. He'll soldier on
I
and
was
finish it
going
like
to
a
say.
trooper, but I think
I do
he's...
believe that is an effective retirement there.
Yeah. And here's Andy Morrill in his
We're in
LMP2.
P5, which is last currently because of the 2 retirements.
Yeah.
Interesting. Andy seems to take quite the wide line through sunset in that 777 car. I've seen him do that on a few different laps now, and I'm not certain if that's intentional on his part or if it's just kind of missing the breaking point a little bit.
Dennis Jakobsen is in the pits, but Dennis Pedersen's carried on, so...
Very
we had this
interesting.
before. We had this before, of course.
How
where,
can he? How much further can he go into this stint, though? That is the question.
And again, we did see exactly this. We saw Dennis Jakobsen pitting exactly 1 lap before Peterson last time out, so we'll see if that pattern holds itself again. But not quite sure where that's going to bring him out in relation to Gareth Walsh. Certainly behind, the question is just by how much.
Yeah, because Gareth closed up on them because there was a 20-second gap, so I think we can expect the gap to be around the 50-second mark, I think.
But you have to think, if Gareth's coming in 2-ish laps before them, is the fuel of the two Dennises going to last that little bit longer and avoid a splash and dash at the end?
Yeah, that's
I don't imagine it's going to at this point, frankly. I mean, if they... we've seen them...
20-ish.
I was going to say, Gareth has enough of a lead to do lift and coast into the corners, which will save some fuel.
But I don't know if that's enough. I mean, he came in almost 5 laps ago. I'd say now. We'll take a look here. He came in 8 laps ago. I don't think. I'm not certain that either of the Dennises.
Oh no!
That's a huge accident.
No!
That's a huge crash.
And if he wasn't before, I'd say Mr. Walsh is certainly going to be visiting the pits again in this race.
Absolutely. Let's see what happened here. Oh, he got caught up with the Corvette of... Well, oh, goodness.
We're getting random pit speeds, replay speeds tonight. I'm not doing that.
No, let's just chalk it up to the list of issues, because if you're going to get one, you might as well get them all.
So I'm trying to see how he actually lost it without it going stupidly fast.
Yeah.
Because he just dipped some tyres on the grass.
Oh, he clipped the curb and the grass there, I think. And then tried to turn the car off on the
just
marbles.
Got caught out by that. And that's the thing, once you're on... Ooh, no.
Yeah, and he's in the pits.
We were talking earlier about different racing surfaces, and you can very clearly see them demarcated. They're very different colors on either side of the white line. That's because the tarmac track is very different surface to the concrete that's on the outside there. That's grooved concrete, and it has very, very drastically reduced grip compared to the racing surface. Incredibly easy to spin if you put a tire out there. And
that may have cost him the race win. Although he is out, and I think he has a fast repair, so...
He must have used his fast repair now.
Yeah. And
certainly, but still, the time of just even in and out of the pits is certainly going to cost him, and, well, we'll see if Dennis Peterson should be able to hold on to his lead after the stop now, with over a minute gap back to Gareth Walsh.
Dennis Pedersen is approaching Andy Morel to lap him. I think this could be...
No, he's going to pit.
The pits. Yep.
Yeah,
they're both
Dennis
pitting.
In the pit. Oh, that's not worked out well for Dennis Pedersen at all.
No, but someone it has worked out incredibly well for is Gareth Walsh, who's going to use this opportunity to try and reclaim some of that lost ground.
Absolutely.
But the focus needs to remain. He is half a lap behind, though.
Yeah, he is 13 seconds ahead of Dennis Jakobsen, so that crash really hasn't helped him out, but it'll be interesting to see now if Dennis Jakobsen can close that gap.
So as he comes down past Bishop, when are we going to see Dennis Pedersen go out? He's been in the pit lane for 40 seconds now as Gareth rounds to the Ullman Straight.
Any second now, I think we should start seeing Peterson rolling down pit lane. And we'll have to try and take a look-see here now as Gareth Walsh is coming up towards Sunset. And yep, there it is. There's Dennis Peterson just rolling.
Keep the speed limit
towards
on.
Pit exit. And he'll come out well clear of Gareth.
And Dennis Jakobsen's so far behind as well. That's a big deal. So what's happened to Dennis Jakobsen?
Indeed, I was just going to wonder the same thing. He seems to have run into some trouble of his own then, because that gap really does need some explaining there.
I don't see anything.
Slow lap on 42.
No, well, looking before that, he had an 8-second gap on lap 38, and he's been losing time ever since.
Definitely.
Not quite certain what happened there to him. Must have just had an off or maybe even a spin. I don't really see any damage on it, but very easily could have lost some time there.
I know he went in the pits a few laps ago.
Yeah, he did stop. So it might have been an unlucky break with traffic or...
Yeah, very quite possibly.
So we're now going to see if Gareth can shut the gap on Dennis Pedersen. And
I think it's
possibly
only
see
7
some rating.
seconds. It's only 7
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
7.5-ish, yeah. I mean, there's really not all that much between them with 40 minutes to go. 7 seconds might as well be none. There's every possibility that really any of those three of the top runners.
But if you think
winds up at the front of the field.
my comment earlier is now mute because I think Gareth took on some fuel because it's a little bit longer than a fast repair in the actual pit time. So maybe these are now on a very similar strategy since Pedersen came in one lap after Gareth Walsh had to repair.
Yeah, absolutely. Which would interestingly put Gareth at almost at the advantage there, having been one of the last in, and under a repair like that, having presumably gotten fresh tires as well. We will have to see.
Oh, Steamroller's crashed.
Oh no! Good grief!
I don't know
Let's
what
have a
happened
look
to
and
him.
see what happened here. And we think he's. Where is he here? Coming up to the hairpin, I think.
Ooh, gets
Gets a
squirrely
little
on the
wiggle on
ABS.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, lack of ABS. I think he might stop it though. Yep. Saves it, thankfully.
Barriers. Quite the long trip back across the grass there, though.
And Andy Morrell's just had an off track as well. Somewhere. We don't know where that is yet. But
Who's that spinning just very nearly collected one of the Danes there?
Yeah. And here's Andy Morrell. Let's see what happens to him. Yeah, he's on the marbles, and there's only one place you're going if you're on the marbles, unfortunately.
Spin City!
And that's straight to the scene of the accident.
Absolutely correct. Unfortunately for Mr. Morrell, but also had yes, indeed, that was Jacob Larson that we also saw having a spin there, and it's going to see exactly what happened with him here. Just
He
like
looks very deep in a lock up at the front.
Yeah,
people really just starting to find problems under braking as this race goes on. As they said, I really don't think most, if any, of these drivers are taking tire changes during the stops. So you're seeing with an hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes or so of wear on these tires through Sebring, which again, as we know, is not at all kind to racing rubber.
And Andy Morrell's just gone into the pits as Gareth Walsh cracks a 149.05 compared to Dennis Pedersen's 150.12. So we could have a battle on our hands in about 10 laps.
Getting a little bit loose there from Gareth again, taking a shortcut across the grass, it seems like.
It's going to be a slowdown.
Absolutely, just couldn't quite keep it under control under braking there, and did the smart thing in basically just releasing the brake pedal, letting it, realizing he had an escape route and basically just letting the car carry on. But yes, as you said, he is almost certainly going to be penalized by the stewards for that.
Unfortunately, we've had our third retirement. Mr. Andy Morrell has, I think, decided he's can't carry on tonight.
Oh, that's a shame.
And it is tonight as we see the sun continuing to dip further and further towards the horizon, and this just constantly changing light conditions here, really not to be outstated. It's quite the challenge for some of these drivers, especially those who don't necessarily have experience here at Sebring, especially in some of these corners where you absolutely can get a sudden flash in your eyes and not quite be able to see the exit or not be able to see the apex, or perhaps more worryingly, not seeing the car in front of you.
And another thing to consider as well is that the track temperature will drop as the sun goes down. So
Absolutely.
You're going to have to adapt your driving style to that as well.
And again, what with these, the clouds that we can see overhead on the circuit here, and on a slightly overcast day like this, that surface temperature dropping will absolutely not be uniform. That is across the surface of the racetrack from left to right and from start to finish. It's going to be warming and cooling at different rates. So it's really just the experienced drivers here who are able to you keep moving around, keep finding the optimal grip, keep finding the optimal path, and really able to maintain that speed. All of this, of course, as we mentioned, with wearing down tires, with wearing down patience, with wearing down concentration, and really just drivers that are getting a little bit tired here.
And we're watching Annie Rabbits here, and it's great to see Linda Noble's car still running in this race as well, which is
I guess held with duct tape this late in the race.
Duct tape, spit and prayer, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say speed tape and prayers, absolutely.
Place, Linda Noble as well, because she's still going, and the only way you get experience is by racing, and keep going. So, and Annie was very close to the wall there. I wonder if she's going to pit. No.
And you can see just the absolute pogo through the car there as she passes through that quite infamous bump that's close into the wall there in Sunset.
Yeah. And I think Klaas Hartmann's out as well. I've just seen his damaged BMW flying past. But, I think that's Linda overtaking Annie. No.
She's chasing. There's Klaas just in the shot, actually. Overtaking Annie.
Oh, the scoundrel.
Getting quite busy in some of the GT runners here as we wind our way through the closing stages of this race. And like we were talking about earlier, we've got just about half an hour to go, and now is really when you're going to see this race come alive as everybody starts pushing through their last pit stop and looking for every little bit of pace they can find as Nick Frost tries to make a bold move up the inside of the hairpin and gets it done neatly.
Marshall must have been getting tired with them blue flags. He must have been waving there.
He must have arms like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, and Dennis Pedersen had an off track just then.
Off for 1.5 seconds.
There we go.
Let's see what Gareth. 5 seconds to Gareth now, though.
And Dennis Jakobsen
coming down.
Dennis Jakobsen, it seems, has settled for third.
Yeah, he's really just dropping. We can see they're almost half a second off his fastest lap, just really kind of slowing down the pace there. As I say that, though, the gap to Gareth Walsh just dropped about 6 seconds. Yeah. Not certain if Walsh just ran into some difficulties there or what just happened, but...
And that's the thing, Dennis is running so well.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't count Jakobsen out of this race quite yet.
Yeah, we tried that earlier.
Indeed.
Ras Vuri is in from 5th overall, which is a phenomenal result in that 911.
I think it's a phenomenal performance. He's not quite got it over the line yet.
No. Yeah, he is an alien, and it's Kimi Räikkönen, I keep saying this. But, I mean...
Look, if I see him go for an ice cream after the race, I might just believe you.
Nick is in the pits too.
We joke, but we do wish Kimi the very best of wishes, because it's not fun having COVID.
Absolutely, and a speedy recovery. It's quite odd to see him announce his retirement at the end of the season, and then for the universe to announce that it has somewhat different plans for him.
Yes. So, with F1 silly season upon us as well, who do we think will end up where?
Well, it's an absolutely interesting
Russell
question.
Has to go to Mercedes.
Well, there's no question about it. Valtteri, unfortunately, is not quite up to the standards that they need. I think he's just. It's not. I really shouldn't even say that. It's not anything against him as a driver that he can't perform. It's just they're not gonna keep him on as a second gun. They're gonna look for somebody younger who's eventually gonna be able to replace Lewis. Because I think, unfortunately, it has to be said, as talented as Bottas is, and as well as he's done as a second driver for them, he is not a replacement for Lewis Hamilton.
No.
As we run on board with Nicholas Siegler here. Ooh, just having a slight kiss with the wall there, and then a much larger embrace. That is unfortunate for him.
I think that was a French kiss.
Indeed. I hate to say it, but it very well may prove to be... may prove to be fatal attraction in this case. That was a big impact.
Oh, massive hit on the bump as well on that side corner.
Absolutely, and as we said, that infamous bump there, very easy to unsettle a car, to upset the balance, and just send it into chaos.
Yeah. As Dennis Pedersen comes around sunset, looking...
Linda Noble's crashed again.
Oh no.
Oh,
so it's such a bad race. She's been really working hard this week, trying to get that to work.
Yeah.
Was that me? Did I double click?
Yeah. And that I mean, the aero surfaces are probably not working as well, so she's got much less grip. And
don't touch the grass.
Well, the problem there, as you can see, with the wing canting off at an angle like that, it's not even so much the reduced grip. That's something that you as a driver can adapt to, and it certainly will have an impact on lap times, and certainly a detrimental one. But more importantly, there and much more dangerous is the uneven grip. And as you start loading up the tires, you load up that car going through the corners. As you increase that load, when it's not being applied to those rear wheels evenly, it's very easy to see exactly what's happened there, and for that lighter wheel to just let go.
Absolutely.
Well, that gap is coming down.
Yeah, he's still, exactly, I was going to say, being challenged for this lead, but still hanging on to it for the time being. And we're going to see if he's going to be able to maintain that lead for the next 20-odd minutes. But for right now, he still has just about 3.5 seconds of a comfort zone between himself and Gareth Walsh.
I think Gareth has to pit again. I have a horrible feeling.
I think they both have to pit again.
Well, yeah. That's the thing. If one of them does, then both of them will. They pitted more or less at the same time. I think they were just about a lap apart, if I do believe. Indeed, yeah. So they Walsh pitted just a lap earlier than Peterson. So if Dennis goes in, Gareth will certainly want to follow.
And will Gareth need to pit again because he took the faster pit and he may have fueled as well?
So I think whatever schedule Edison is on, Gareth will be on now because I think he topped his fuel, like Zach was saying when he came in for that fast repair.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he certainly would have done. It would have been silly not to. So you have to assume that they're basically on equal fuel strategies now, and it's just going to be a question of what was it we were saying about requiring a cooperative and compliant GT driver in order to make some of these passes work? It really, really does.
The pre-race meeting, that was an issue of do not try and overtake in that small complex.
Yeah, and it actually is just a show of the experienced drivers versus those with less, or sometimes the more patient drivers versus those with less. Just knowing, like we've been saying all race long, where to make those overtakes and where to hold back. It can be so frustrating as the faster car to be held up in a long complex like that behind a slower class. But you have to realize that the greatest benefit is going to come by just waiting and taking the safer path.
And I think Gareth is being quite impatient here as well, and I think it'll bite him as he comes across traffic. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong, but
no, but he's pushed and lost it before.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's not uncommon to see at this sort of a stage of a race like this, especially one that's presented such a challenge to some of these drivers, as we've seen. They're just going to be on that ragged edge of concentration. They're already flustered. They're already, losing a little bit of that their patience and their cool, calm composure. And as this race starts ticking down towards the finish here, they are really going to just be throwing caution to the wind, some of them. And again, you really can start to pick out the most experienced drivers from those who are able to just stay calm through the last lap and realize that even though everything changes in the last 15-20 minutes of an endurance race, from a cockpit level view, absolutely nothing changes. You still have to do exactly what you've been doing the whole time through.
Oh, and Gareth is right on the tail of Tim Buckman here, and the gap is down to about 1.5 seconds between him and Dennis Peterson.
Does seem to have learned his lesson. It does seem to have learned his lesson a little bit, as Gareth, though, holding back through the 2 and 3 complex there until he has the much safer run down the short straight to the hairpin in order to make that pass work.
And yeah, Dennis Jakobsen's just coming around Gurney Bend now towards hairpin turn.
It's such a big picture view that's required as a driver or a strategist in events like these, because again, it's so tempting and so frustrating to be stuck behind a car and feeling like you're losing time. Because again, it can be difficult to realize in the heat of the moment with the visor down and the red mist flashing. It can be very difficult to realize what the greater gains are on a larger scale. It's much more obvious even in the heat of battle. It's incredibly obvious when you see that display on your steering wheel start ticking into the negatives and feeling like, you know, it's costing you overall pace. You have to have that mental acuity and that, you know, that experience to be able to remind yourself of what's truly at stake and what's, you know, where the gains really come from.
We should mention Lawrence Lucero, that gap he had to Colin Byrne just 4 laps ago was massive. I know there could have been a pit involved in the middle of that, but he's consistently been chipping away at Colin Byrne ahead as Colin is about to be overtaken by Dennis Jacobsen.
And Dennis Peterson, I think, is under a lot of pressure here from Gareth Walsh. The gap is less than a second as they go into turn 1, and I think Dennis Peterson is just about in the lead as they go into turn 2 and the 2-3 complex. And here it is.
They are absolutely line of third now. That's been quite the recovery drive from Gareth, though, I have to say, to be able to come back and put pressure on the leader just like this with barely a few tenths between them. And are we going to see an overtake here?
Oh, and Dennis wisely covering the inside.
Absolutely, some brilliant defense from Dennis Peterson here, but we are not through with this fight yet, as Gareth is going to keep at it, and he's going to look for up the inside here to the left. Not quite going to have the room to get through. I don't think it's going to put him on the outside, and again, absolutely brilliant defensive driving from Dennis Peterson here, but still with him, still in the draft. Really, we're going to see him move, I think, coming down, either down the back straight into Sunset or potentially into turn 1 here.
Yeah.
Certainly going to get interesting in just a few moments' time.
And it's inevitable because Gareth's fastest lap is a second faster than Dennis's fastest lap. And that, that's an unusual place to go for the move. This could end
badly. It really is.
Well,
Gareth is through for the moment.
There.
Dennis tries to sling it back, but doesn't quite get there. Does get the draft now down the back straight, although Garrett's still just walking away from him. And Dennis getting a little bit out of sorts there. Almost, I don't think they're going to be close enough for an attempt at the switchback into Sunset, and indeed much too far back to have a look-see here. But Dennis absolutely going to be looking to make up for that with 20 minutes to go here.
And that would have been a big ask as well to defend for 20 minutes because Sebring isn't Monaco. It is quite wide and open, and there are passing places.
Absolutely, that's the thing is it's not completely out of the picture to think that Dennis would be able to hold off Gareth for 20 minutes. The problem is if he's able to do that, you'd almost certainly lose out. The both of you lose out to somebody else.
Dennis Jacobsen's in the pits. Now, that is a surprise. Dennis Jacobsen is in the pits.
He needed to come in a few laps earlier than the other two as Jonathan Evans locks up and makes collisions with Jacob Larson.
Oh, and almost afters are there as well.
Bit of a, after you first type moment, and unfortunately that can result in massive time loss and just a little bit of contact for both of them here. Dennis Jacobsen, I'm wondering if he's if that's not indicative of the stop that we're going to have to see then from Gareth Walsh and Dennis Peterson. Again, as you said, he was in a little bit before them, so he might just be that little bit shy on fuel. Although you think if he's...
Rewatch this battle where they went backwards and forwards.
Indeed, but if he's... You'd have to think, though, that if Dennis Jacobsen is just that few laps shy of fuel, and again, if it's going to have an effect here, it would have to be only that few lap gap between their pit stops. If he's only that few laps shy, you'd think that he might have wanted to wait until a little bit closer to the end to take that splash, which tells me that it might have been a little bit more than that, and we'll have to take a look at the timing here and see quite how long that stop is. But if he took more than a handful of laps of fuel, I'd say that's an almost guaranteed stop. Then we're going to have to see from the top two drivers here.
Yeah, there's an 8.83 second pit stop by Jacobsen.
Oh, that's
That's a splash, wasn't it?
That's a really small splash then. Yeah, so I'm wondering if he's
just come in during clear air.
Right, just trying to cover off the possibility and potentially not, get rid of the of having to lift and save. I don't know if there'd be any competitive advantage to coming in for a splash right now, just to eliminate fuel saving. So I think if he's stopping, it's because he had to. But still not certain if we're going to see a stop from the two front runners. If we do, that'll absolutely make things interesting here.
And Dennis Jacobson's just coming up to T1 now, as Gareth and Dennis Pedersen have just gone through Cunningham Corner, going through Collier Curve, heading towards Tower Turn, where they had that battle earlier.
They do like their alliterative names here at Sebring, don't they?
They do indeed. Tower Turn, and I'm guessing that's where the air traffic control tower was, or is.
Indeed it was, yes.
So, yeah, Dennis Jacobson is set fair here for a podium, given that Nicholas Siegler is a lap behind.
3 minutes 20 seconds, I believe.
Yeah, I would say I don't think we'll see a change in the podium sitters. It still remains to be seen, though, and I'd say all three of them are completely up in the air, though, as to which order they'll come down in. This race is far from finished. And that top three order, I would say, is certainly far from decided.
And Gareth Walsh is just in a 149.17, and Dennis Pedersen's just in a 150.31. So he's still opening the gap at the moment.
And just over 16 and a half the gap back from Pedersen to Dennis Jacobsen. So again, he's still not out of this battle himself. And again, I wouldn't be surprised to see these top three positions changing quite a bit before the end of this race. Now again, with such a small gap between the top two, if Jacobsen can get himself up there with Pedersen in front, then he's right there with Walsh as well.
Absolutely, and like Murray Walker used to say, anything can happen, and it usually does.
Absolutely, and I'm fairly certain we're on to see a good amount of it today, even with 15 minutes left to go. We are on for quite a lot of action in these last closing laps.
Oh, and Linda Noble's in the pits again, and she's been in for 8 minutes.
Yeah, just a rough day for Linda Noble in that car, I have to say. She's been putting up a brave fight, but just seems to keep funding incident after incident, unfortunately.
These things come with practice, and the next race will be better.
Oh, I mean, there's no way around it. If you're going to race cars, you're going to crash cars.
Absolutely.
It comes with the territory.
Just ask Pastor Maldonado. Although
5-second gap now.
To be honest, though, I would say Nikita Mazepin might offer the contrary opinion that it's perfectly possible to race cars without ever crashing, so long as you only ever spin.
Yeah. Losing a surname.
Oh no, Annie's crashed.
Oh no. Oh no, and I think she's avoided the wall. I'm just looking at her stream now.
Spying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I ain't paying. I refuse to pay iRacing just to observe a race.
Ooh, just loses the back end there.
Just
highly loaded. And
yeah.
Exactly. You can see trying to keep the car under control, trying to gather it back up, but there's just no way around, especially with that heavy lump of metal on the back end of that Lamborghini. There's just no way she was going to keep that under control, unfortunately.
And Dennis Jacobsen's on the charge now. His last lap was 1 minute 49, and the most recent one was 150.66, which is comparable with Dennis Pedersen. So, as you're saying, this isn't over yet.
No, certainly far from it. Does look like she managed to, again, avoid contact with the wall there. The tires certainly won't be thanking her, but could have gone much, much worse for Annie Rabbits there.
And they'll be like a 50 pence piece after that as well. Gareth Walsh is streaking away now.
I think it's Gareth's race to lose at this current point.
Yeah, no, we'll have to go. I didn't see that overtake there. I didn't see the move from Gareth to take the lead there, but we're going to have to go and try and find that as well. And where is...
He took the lead when he did the back and forth with Dennis Pedersen a few laps ago.
Yeah, through Bishop and How do you say that?
No, I'm sorry.
Million.
Yeah. that's right. I'm sorry. I've lost track of who was in front. That's right. Dennis was behind. Got confused for a second. Just went, wait a minute. Did this name swap around on me?
A Murray Walker moment. Let's call it that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as we jump
I
on board, I
like
think Collins had a little bit of an off. He was off for 4 seconds, I think.
Yeah, and here he comes.
Yeah, that's just going to be, again, just losing the back
marbles.
end there.
The dreaded marbles.
Getting it stopped rather quickly there, though, being able to continue on.
And fair play to him as well for getting off the track as quickly as possible. And not trying to recover it too much, if that makes sense. The slide there off Gareth Walsh, again, much like Corey, I wonder if he's pushing a bit too hard. I mean, there's 12 minutes to go, but anything can happen.
We're just seeing everyone, I think, is losing a little bit of concentration now. We're just seeing a few more crashes. Is this sunset again?
It is sunset again.
Indeed.
And
same thing, it just loses it. Just loses the back end there. Again, I have to imagine a lot of what she's lost from that first incident was confidence, and it can be absolutely crushing.
Yeah.
Especially one off can lead into another, and when they happen in the same place, it really can just knock a hole in you.
Yeah.
Getting really dark now as we approach the last 12 minutes. Sunset happened, I think, about 5 minutes ago.
Ooh. Gareth did well to hold that there. The back looked like it was going to step out on him.
He could be really pushing his tyres too much.
Absolutely, and 10-11 minutes around Sebring is no small time. That's no small feat to hold it together if you've got tires that are running off on the ragged edge, which, like I said, I don't imagine that anybody's really taken a second set. So all of these runners should be on the same rubber they started this race with best part of 2 hours ago.
Yeah. And, Gareth has had an off on these tires as well. Let's not forget. So they might be decidedly second-hand at this point.
Absolutely.
And Dennis Pedersen, he's had a very good race, actually. He led for quite a bit of it, which fair play to him.
He definitely had the safety, just didn't quite have the pace.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, he's got almost a 10-second gap now to Gareth in P1, and I don't think he's likely to be able to claw that back. He's got 10 minutes or so to go. I'd say he's got the time barely, but just about a second elapsed slower than Gareth Walsh on his personal best there, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon, unfortunately for him.
I think there could be another pit, though, for Gareth Walsh very soon.
I mean, that is going to be the question, are we going to see... We've seen short little stops there for Walsh. We've seen short little stops for Jakobsen. They are on more or less equal strategies. The one that I'd be looking out for actually is Dennis Peterson in second. I think the lead of this race, barring any incidents for Gareth, I don't think he's going to lose the lead of this race. I think the true test is going to be the two Dennises, as we've been dealing with from the beginning. I think they are going to be the true battle to the end here. And the question is really just going to come down to, does Dennis Peterson need to take an extra stop? And if he does, it's going to have to happen soon.
Yeah. We're on board with Nick Frost here, the lead in the GT3 category. And
it's just beautiful as that sun starts to disappear over the horizon fully.
Yeah, and he's got a very nice lead over Jacob Larson as well, of about 25 seconds or so.
Jacob, I believe, is the class above, though.
Is he?
Indeed he is,
Oh,
yeah.
he is.
Nick is just flying. He's having a blinder of a race.
I think he's lapped everyone in the GT3 class, hasn't he?
Quite I don't think he's lapped Colin and Lawrence.
1 second.
So not the podiums yet.
No.
But Gareth is pulling just such a big lead now.
Yeah, and class has gone off.
Slightly worrying, actually, though, from Gareth. You see that gap still increasing, which again is never a bad thing. But with 10 minutes to go and a more or less insurmountable lead, you wonder if this is not the time for him to just back it off just a little bit, just to make sure you bring that car home.
Yeah, the trick is as well not to lose concentration, like Senna did at Monaco in '88, I think it was, when he backed off a bit too much and buried it into the Porsche.
That's the thing, is it sometimes can be almost counterintuitive, but sometimes continuing on at your full-on pace can almost be the safer option than backing off, if only because backing off that little, even just that little bit, means essentially having to rethink and refine all of your braking and turn-in points, whereas continuing on at 100% might mean just keeping up with that rhythm and not having to break it. That very well could be the difference between continuing and finishing the race and having that race-ending mistake 5 minutes from the end.
I think we've had 3 other retirements: Jonathan Evans, Andy Morale, like I think I said earlier, and Mattis Matson, I think, is also retired.
Oh, no.
I really
that's a
thought
shame.
Mattis was going to push Ras for the win.
Yeah. I
Now,
thought
what
so
am
too.
I seeing at the front here, though? Because if our timing screens is to be believed, there is... apparently they're not to be believed, because I don't know what just happened with that gap there. It just
Apparently,
showed
we
a half
got
a
quarter of
second.
a second.
Right.
Edison's
Not
got
to-
a TARDIS by the sounds of it.
Yeah, either he found the hyperspace button, or there may have been just a slight error with the timing and scoring system for a moment, but that certainly gave me a little bit of a rise there.
Yeah, I think we got the FIA timing system from Zandvoort, haven't we?
It's all the sand in the boxes,
Yeah. Or it's all the Max Verstappen fans reprogramming it.
Or what with all the flares they're bringing, one might even call it a bit of a smoke screen, but...
Oh, bum bum.
no, I can't help myself.
Taxi. Oh, and a great lap there from Rasvieri as well.
There's low-hanging fruit, I've got to take a bite.
Yeah. Oh, and
Flappy
yeah.
and Henrik.
Flappy, yeah, and I do feel sorry for Dennis Jakobsen, actually, because he's fought back and fought back and fought back, and
He mostly just found himself unlucky.
He's about 40 seconds down when he was in contention for the win at one point.
That's absolutely. It really just came down to a little bit of luck.
Yeah, and that's the thing you need at Sebring as well, is a blessing from Lady Luck, frankly, because anything can happen, and
Absolutely,
you want
fair
it to
play.
happen your way, obviously.
We should also mention Annie Rabbit is racing with an injured shoulder.
Yes.
So she's doing 2 hours in a car with an injured shoulder is quite the effort.
And quite the show of dedication, it must be said.
Yeah, quite Mark Webber-esque, because I'm pretty sure he's pulled similar stunts, hasn't he, with broken legs and stuff.
I thought you were about to say
That's
quite
the thing.
mad.
It's the mark of a true driver, though. You get to the point where there's something that basically is, if it doesn't physically prevent me from competing, I'm just going to do it. I mean, I remember finishing up Petit Le Mans, so it's got to be 5-6 years ago, and doing the last stint, and had a brake pedal fell off. My brake pedal fell off the stock about, I don't know, half hour to the end. Bolt sheared.
Yeah.
And it was before I had driving shoes, so I was driving in socks, and basically ended up having to do the last, 20-30 minutes of the race with a broken bolt pushing into my foot every time I hit the brakes.
And that was a load cell, or?
That's on a load cell, yeah. It's the CSP V3s, so yeah, it was not a comfortable way to finish the race, I will tell you. But it was very simple. You radio to the team and tell them what's happening, and you just get the response back that says, "Understood. If you pit now, we will lose this position."
Wow.
Right. Well, guess I'm finishing this race.
Gareth Walsh is in the pits.
Oh, and there it is. We are seeing that last, a very, very late final stop from Gareth Walsh. Now, is that going to be a change in the lead? It's certainly a temporary one if Dennis doesn't follow him in, but...
How much fuel has Dennis got?
Well, that's you have to imagine if Dennis doesn't stop as well, then that is a change to lead. And in fact, Dennis has stayed out.
Ooh,
Dennis
this could be
Peterson has
tasty.
stayed out.
But here comes
Will
Gareth.
he stop? Again, I can't imagine that he's going to have to stop again with 3. He's got 2 laps to go.
Yeah, and that was a 7.85 second pit stop.
Yeah, that's a nothing stop that was 2-3 laps of fuel at most.
He's been
But when
going
did-
22, 21 in the pit strategy, so he could be going to the end.
I think we've just seen the deciding moment of the race right there, and unfortunately for Gareth Walsh, it just comes down to fuel management. Just didn't quite have enough to get across the line there. Will we see anyone else taking last-minute stops? I don't know. I doubt we'll see it from the pointy end of the field, but there are quite a few other cars still running to keep an eye on.
And, you know, a quick shout out to Fury as well, 5th overall. It's a heck of a good result in the GTE, and, you know, he's not really been
Absolutely.
challenged.
Finishing
all
ahead
race,
of several prototypes.
Yeah, you know, he's not been challenged all that much in the race.
And again, if we're looking at Nick Frost as well, finishing currently sitting, I should say, not to curse him, currently sitting in 9th overall and sitting ahead of the higher class GTE cars. At least one, no, two, three, almost 5 of them that
Yeah,
he's managed to muscle his way out of. Even in a slower class, in the slowest class car, he's finishing. He's on track, I should say, to finish in the top 10 overall here. That is certainly a result to be proud of.
I wonder if Pedersen's going to try and get away with doing the laps as slowly as possible so he gets the white flag.
I think it's been shown. I think that was being shown.
Yeah.
The marshal was going crazy.
I couldn't quite make it out there in the dark, but here, yeah, we'll see as we come across with Gareth. Let's keep an eye on the left, and indeed we do have a white flag. Last lap of this race as we ride on board with our current leader, and I would dare say our final leader, Dennis Peterson, will take you on board to the finish here as he comes around towards the hairpin for the final time. I do not think we're going to see any sort of upset. Clearly he doesn't need to stop for that last little splash in fuel, and that is going to be the deciding factor of this race. Knock wood for him, I should say.
Yeah.
It's always amazing when you see it be strategy that plays out rather than necessarily the driver's skill.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's just no need to be silly.
It's not even a small correction. I'd say it's not necessarily, not that it's not necessarily driver skill. It's in addition to driver skill. It's both. You can't have just one. A perfect strategy with a driver who can't execute is just as bad as the fastest driver on a poor strategy. You need both, and as Welsh mentioned, you need that blessing from Lady Luck as well.
And Linda Noble at this late stage has posted her fastest lap of the race, which is great news. So, there's a testimony to not giving up.
Absolutely, and that is an incredible feat. As Dennis Peterson comes around the back straight towards Sunset Curve for the final time, coming around to take first place in a well-deserved finish, I must say.
It's the hardest corner to go, though. Oh, we just lost him.
He comes, waiting for him to come across the line. There is Dennis Peterson, flashing the lights, celebrating a well-deserved victory.
What a fantastic performance.
Yeah.
What a performance.
Where does that put Dennis and you now in the competition, Jack? No?
Unfortunately, because the team thing doesn't work very well, I cannot tell you.
Right.
I can have a quick look and try and do some math. 1 second, if you carry on talking.
But that is a great result for Dennis Peterson.
Now, of course, we do have to bear in mind that there are bonus points that will be awarded for the fastest lap, for the safest drivers, and I believe there is at least one other bonus category as well that I'm forgetting.
So safest driver, fastest lap, and fastest qualifier. It's a 1 point for the 2 fastest, 5 points for safety.
Indeed.
So 30 points for the win for Dennis Pedersen. I got the spreadsheet of destiny in front of me. And Gareth Walsh is on the scoreboard. After having a poor race at Spa, he's in the points, which is brilliant for him.
Was Gareth there the first time, actually?
I'm just having a look at the Spa results. I believe he was. Yes, because he finished. Oh, sorry, no, he wasn't.
Our race winner, Dennis Pedersen, fantastic. Kept that perfect strategy going. Ras Fury, without doubt, obviously finished in the GTE class P1. He just led that from start to finish, I'm pretty sure.
And Nick Frost comes across the line to confirm his 9th place finish, again ahead of several of the faster GTE runners. An absolutely fantastic result for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a shame we can't interview him, really.
Maybe next season.
Yeah.
So anyone that's watching along, this is the final race of the test series. It ended up being 2 races instead of 3 because we decided to launch starting next season. Not 2 laps. That'd be really short. 2 races per iRacing season, so week 6 and week 12. Pretty much the same format, but it won't be teams. It'll be solo drivers only. Now, I don't think the team actually turned up tonight anyway. But we'll hopefully bring more content, slicker results when we get to the results, and generally an all-round less buggy presentation.
Yeah.
Because we've had some of the demons tonight.
Absolutely.
Including the championship results that we're not able to load again. Despite me putting about 3 days worth work into it.
Oh, what's life without a little fun like that, eh? Where would it be? Where would the fun be if everything worked?
But a fantastic result. Maybe we can. Dennis will have his microphone. I was going to say maybe we could drag him in, but
absolutely.
But as the sun sets on Sebring, actually the night pretty much rises at Sebring now.
Indeed.
But everyone who tuned in and watched pretty much the whole race, thank you everyone for hopping in. That was really cool of yous. Hopefully I'll see you in 7 weeks' time. I think I know we're doing Le Mans next. So that'll be a fantastic race. Perfect for multi-class, perfect for racing in general. Is another good Le Mans.
Exactly. What's wrong? There's never anything wrong with running at Le Mans.
So Dennis Pedersen in chat goes, I had 1.8 laps worth of fuel left. So it was quite tight.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it really does come down to just that little bit of management and who's able to get those figures exactly right. And like we saw with Gareth Walsh, who's unfortunately just gets caught out slightly on the wrong side of proper there.
After 2 hours, 7.97 seconds behind race winner. That is just unbelievably unfortunate.
Yeah.
Still, it has been an absolutely fantastic evening here. It's been 2 hours of wonderful racing in South Florida at Sebring International Raceway, and I really think we couldn't have asked for a better event.
No, I totally agree. It's been utterly fantastic. Despite all the little things that went wrong, we had such a fun race. Everyone was trying maximum. Strategy came into play right at the ends. Like you don't often get that when you watch iRacing races, but strategy was so key.
Absolutely.
Right up to the end.
Lots of great storylines to come out of this race. Lots that I'm sure we'll be discussing in the days and weeks to come, and everybody just reliving and reminiscing about just a fantastic event we've had here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And according to the chat, whoever Aardvark 001 was came third in the GT3. He came out with 0x.
Tim had 0x, I believe. So
of an achievement.
I believe Nick did as well.
That'll net the both of them then a lovely 5-point bonus
and
for being safest drivers.
I know I'm just misreading a number. So does Nick and Tim both got 0x's?
That's a phenomenal result considering it's Sebring.
Like I wouldn't have done. I couldn't do that.
No, I couldn't. I'd hit every wall.
But we will, like I said, be back in 7 weeks. It should still be me, Zach, and Welsh being your commentary team. Unless something comes up in the meantime, It'll still be Imsa cars, but it'll be a new championship. I will make the standings work, I promise, for the next time. And we will have some great racing at Le Mans. So we'll see you next time in Paris. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. And thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Yep. Take care, bro.